Chapter 990. A grand bonfire party welcomed Tang Zheng's arrival. The witch tribesmen sang and danced, and under the light of the fire, the witch tribesmen's faces were brimming with brilliant smiles. Tang Zheng sat at the top, smiling as he looked at the laughing clansmen. Many clansmen came to toast Tang Zheng and he did not reject them. "Little Zheng, how was the final exam last semester?" Tang Dahai looked at him kindly and asked. Tang Zheng was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to answer because he did not take the final exam at all. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Tang Zheng was weak, not daring to look at the old man. Tang Dahai understood Tang Zheng very well. Seeing his reaction, he immediately understood that there was definitely a problem. He asked worriedly, "Little Zheng, did something happen?" Tang Zheng opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say the word, "no." Since his grandfather had smelled it, he really could not say anything to lie. He took a deep breath and said, "Grandfather, I haven't been to school anymore." "You didn't go to school?" Tang Dahai was so shocked that the cup in his hand fell on the table, and his expression changed greatly. "How did you not go to school?" "Grandfather, don't be impatient. It's just a small accident." Seeing the old man's big reaction, Tang Zheng was shocked and hurriedly comforted him. Tang Dahai's face lost all color. He had always been proud that Tang Zheng was admitted to a good university. Although his development later exceeded his expectations, Tang Dahai still hoped that Tang Zheng could study hard. He himself was not very cultured, so perhaps he had placed more of his hopes on Tang Zheng. Now that he heard this bad news, his entire body was in a bad state, as if someone had poured a basin of ice water on him. Suddenly Tang Dahai let out a long sigh. He was full of persuasion, but he did not say it out loud. He said dejectedly, "Little Zheng, I know you have grown up and have your own ideas on many things. Many of my opinions are not suitable, but if you have already made up your mind, then I will support you." Tang Zheng's nose twitched. He had already made a decision in his heart. He said resolutely, "Grandpa, I haven't finished yet. The school matter has been solved. The school is about to start. I will go back to school." "Really?" Tang Dahai's worry turned into joy, and his face glowed again. Tang Zheng nodded firmly. "Of course. People have to learn when they're alive. I can't fall behind. This is what my grandfather taught me since I was young. I've always remembered it." Tang Dahai was comforted and laughed heartily. "You're really my good grandson." Fang Shishir took a deep look at Tang Zheng. This decision was within her expectations, because she understood the relationship between this pair of grandfather and grandson. Tang Zheng would do anything for his grandfather. Whether Gu Guan truly wanted to return to school or to fulfill his grandfather's wishes, he would make this choice. Filial piety was the most important virtue of all. Fang Shishir was also a traditional girl at heart. She admired Tang Zheng for this very much. She couldn't help but smile. That night Tang Zheng drank a lot. In the end he didn't use his martial arts to dissolve the alcohol, so he was drunk. In a daze, a soft body slipped into his arms. At first she was Fang Shishir, then Yi Dingdang, then Lu Qingmei Wu Muhongyan. Each and every woman's charming face changed in front of his eyes, making him intoxicated. The salty sea breeze blew in. Tang Zheng felt a trace of coolness. He opened his eyes in a daze and found that there was another person in his arms. Fang Shishir's lazy appearance was very charming. Fang Shishir felt his gaze and shyly opened her eyes. She smiled sweetly and leaned into his arms. She whispered, "Last night you were drunk. I helped you back. Then you did something bad. Look, this is the evidence." Following Fang Shishir's finger, Tang Zheng saw that the room was a mess. Clothes were scattered all over. Fang Shishir lightly punched his chest a few times and said, "Last night you were like a wild beast. Look at the marks you left on my body." As he said this, he stretched out his arm. Sure enough, there were a few marks. Tang Zheng gently stroked her arm and said with a pained heart, "I was drunk last night. I'm sorry I hurt you." "Hee, but you're also very manly when you're drunk." Fang Shishir shyly lowered her head. "Is that so?" Tang Zheng shook his head and asked with an evil smile, "Last night, did you see that I was drunk and then had bad intentions towards me? Did you do something bad to me?" "It was clearly you who did something bad to me. You still have the nerve to blame me." Fang Shishir pretended to be angry. The two of them played for a while and rolled together again. After a long time they got up and washed up. After breakfast, the group of people arrived in front of the transmission array. There were already quite a few people gathered here. Everyone was filled with anticipation towards the Lord Envoy. "This is the transmission array. It will open up a passage between our island and the capital, and then we will be able to travel freely. This is extremely important to us. Everyone can concentrate on cultivating on the island, and also go to the bustling city to train. Combining theory and practice, this way our strength will not be a castle in the air, but a solid foundation. After Tang Zheng passionately explained for a while, everyone's emotions were stirred up, and their eyes burned with passion. Tang Zheng took a deep breath. This was the first time he had set up a transmission array. This transmission array was different from the one in the Ghost Realm, because the transmission array in the Ghost Realm was very large and could teleport many people and resources. The one he had set up was a miniature version, and could teleport people and resources at once. This way there would not be a huge commotion. After all, the other end was the capital. If there was too much commotion and it attracted the attention of others, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Jing channeled his power and pointed his finger into the air. So, the innate chi was injected into the array, and immediately, a faint light rose from the ground, but it was not dazzling, and under the illumination of the sun, it seemed almost insignificant. Yesterday, Tang Jing had asked the elders to select a group of Witch clan people, and he wanted to bring them back to the capital. This group of people were extremely excited, and their eyes lit up as they eagerly watched this scene. Everyone walked to the center of the array and stand there. Immediately, these people carefully walked to the center of the array. Tang Dehai and Fang Shishir were no exception. They all stood in the center of the array. Tang Jing turned and said to the elder, "Elder, I have already told you the trick to activating the array. If you have any problems, you can come to the capital to find me through the array." "Yes, Lord Envoy, this old one understands. I wish Lord Envoy a safe journey." Everyone waved goodbye. Tang Jing walked into the array, his power vibrating, completely activating the teleportation array. With a burst of violent fluctuations, a light flashed and everyone disappeared. In the capital, in the backyard of the villa, the mana fluctuated violently. Empyrean Fairy jumped out of the house with a whoosh, looking at this scene in surprise. Whoosh. In the next second, a group of people appeared out of thin air in the backyard. Yi Ding Dang and the others rushed over just in time to see this scene. All of them were dumbfounded. Everyone suddenly realized that Tang Jing was mysterious before, so the array he set up had such a wonderful effect. It could make people appear out of thin air. "What kind of array is this?" Empyrean Fairy asked impatiently. "Teleportation array," Tang Jing said with a smile. He had already confirmed from Chi Yu and the inner demons that there was no teleportation array in the human world. This meant that it was unique to the Ghost Realm. No wonder even the Empyrean Fairy could not recognize this array. He did not know who invented this array, but it was really powerful. People and things thousands of miles away could be teleported in an instant. It was more convenient and faster than any current transportation. If such a teleportation array was set up during a war, the army would directly descend from the sky and pierce into the enemy's heart. Then there would be no need to fight at all. Empyrean Fairy recalled the 3 words teleportation array. She was sure that she had never heard of it before. She could not help but be secretly shocked. Could it be that he learned this from the Ghost Realm? Because he was sure that there was no such array in the human world. "Master." Nana's voice interrupted the Empyrean Fairy's thoughts. Nana was like a little swallow jumping into the Empyrean Fairy's arms. The Empyrean Fairy's cold face finally revealed a trace of a smile. "Master, Nana missed you so much. Nana has always remembered your teachings and has been working hard to cultivate. You are indeed a good disciple of Master." Empyrean Fairy stroked her delicate face and smiled from the bottom of her heart. Fang Shishir and the others were still thinking about the feeling just now. The feeling of being in a different place in an instant made them feel as if everything was still a dream. It was not real at all. Especially the Wu clan people who were looking around, they were full of curiosity about everything. Tang Zheng called the Wu clan people who came from afar. These Wu clan people who came early were already used to the life in the capital. He asked them to bring their people to settle down. Fortunately, they had already bought a lot of houses nearby, so they had a lot of space to live in. Only Tang Zheng's family was left in the backyard. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu hurriedly came over and supported Tang Dehai. They said with concern, "Old Master, quickly go into the house and rest. The sun is very strong outside, it's very hot." Tang Dehai looked around and asked blankly, "Is this where little Zheng lives in the capital?" To him, this luxurious villa was still a bit dazzling. Deep down, he was still that simple old man. "Yes, this is your home. Old Master, your home," Wu Junshan said as he held Tang Dehai's hand. Tang Jing smiled as he watched the two of them being happy. He did not comment on Wu Junshan and Lan Yu's actions, but he had seen everything that this couple had done. Yi Ding Dang and Fang Shishir reunited after a long time. holding hands and whispering to each other. No one knew what they were talking about, but from time to time, they would glance at Princess and, obviously talking about the little secrets between women. The family reunited and everyone happily gathered together. That night was the liveliest night in the villa. Although Tang Dehai was happy, he was secretly worried. Looking at the girls who were more beautiful than flowers, although he was old, he was not stupid. He guessed that they must be related to Tang Jing in some way. His grandson was so lucky to be with so many fairy-like girls. He had to remind him not to be like the modern Chin Shimmy. Chapter 991. The news of his return to the capital spread like wildfire. The entrance was as busy as a marketplace, and Tang Zheng was busy receiving the Yen family and the Qin family. Qin Badian, this late-stage talent, had already pulled up the backbone of the large family. All the powers had seen this and also acknowledged his rise. When they heard about the Azure Dragon Palace, they were shocked to the core. Even Yen Padian was speechless for a long time, and other than shock, there was only shock in his eyes when he looked at Tang Zheng. The insufferably arrogant Azure Dragon Palace was destroyed just like that. Although the High Lord was nowhere to be found, the Azure Dragon Palace no longer had its former glory. Tang Jing warned them to pay attention to the movements in the capital and investigate the whereabouts of the High Lord. He believed that the High Lord would not be a coward, as that was not his style. A single failure could not completely defeat him. Based on his intuition, Tang Jing believed that the High Lord was definitely accumulating power and waiting for the right time to give him a fatal blow. Therefore, Tang Jing warned himself not to be careless. At the end, Tang Jing's mind flashed with the chess club, his heart moved, and he asked, "Has Ji Wuxiang been in the capital recently?" Yen Padian muttered to himself, "I heard from Lu Yun that Ji Wuxiang has appeared in the capital during this period of time. Why, are you interested in him again? Didn't you not want to come into contact with him?" Although Ji Wuxiang has a huge amount of energy, he has always been more low-key in the capital and has not stirred up any trouble. Tang Zheng's mind flashed with Ji Wuxiang's face and the mysterious chess club, and said, "Ji Wuxiang is too mysterious, no one knows his background, this kind of mysterious person is a variable to us in the capital, I think we should find out his background." Yen Potion's mind shook and said, "In the past, everyone thought that Ji Wuxiang was too mysterious and powerful, so no one dared to investigate his background. Now that your strength is getting stronger and stronger, and even the Azure Dragon Palace has become a defeated general, it is only right for you to probe Ji Wuxiang's background." The current Yen Padian was no longer afraid of the slightest thing. Instead, his confidence was high and he believed that all difficulties and obstacles in front of Tang Zheng were like clay chickens and pottery dogs, unable to withstand a single blow. Therefore, after hearing Tang Zheng's thoughts, Yen Padian raised his hands in agreement. Tang Zheng nodded and said, "If that's the case, then you should pay more attention to Ji Wuxiang and the movements of that Go Club. If there's any movement, you must inform me." "Understood." Yen Potion's eyes flickered with a bright light, his passion surging. After everyone left, Tang Zheng went to the company again. Although Mu Hongyan was still overseas, the business in China was doing well. Lin Hu, Fire Phoenix, and the others had also established a firm foothold in the business world. They had completely broken away from their initial social class. Their temperament and image had greatly changed, causing people to look at them in a new light. This group of old subordinates had a long chat with Tang Zheng, and the atmosphere was very warm. Now they were all busy people. They had transformed into business elites and had become flying people, traveling all over the country. Without a doubt, Tang Zheng had given them a new lease on life, so they respected him from the bottom of their hearts. However, they were busy with work, so their cultivation fell further and further behind. However, seeing that they were enjoying themselves, Tang Zheng did not force them to cultivate. Everyone had their own lives, so there was no need to ask everyone to be the same. Tang Zheng had nothing to do, so he recuperated and focused on cultivating. Seeing that the time for school to start was getting closer and closer, Tang Zheng remembered his grandfather's earnest expectations and decided to agree to the school's request to return to the school. However, he was not willing to contact the school's leaders, so he planned to pass the message through Professor Qi Shaowen. Of course, this kind of thing could not be replaced by a phone call. He had to personally visit. This was the respect and etiquette that a student should have. Thus, he brought some gifts and went to Professor Qi's house alone. This was the first time he had come to visit. In the past, his interactions with Professor Qi had always been within the campus. Professor Qi's house was located in an old neighborhood. The neighborhood was lush with lush foliage and the scenery was beautiful. Tang Jing knocked on Professor Qi's door. After a while, Professor Qi opened the door and said, Come in, it's too hot outside. Oh, come on in. Why did you bring these things? Just some small things. Tang Jing placed the gifts on the coffee table and looked up to size up the house. This was a 3-bedroom house. It was quaint, but unlike other houses, it lacked many daily necessities and had many shelves. The shelves were filled with antiques and all kinds of books. It was like a museum. Professor Qi, your house is really a world of its own. It's an eye-opener. Tang Jing praised. Qi Shaowen laughed. These things were the pride of his life. Without these antiques, his life would not be complete. Professor Qi was once married, but he was obsessed with archaeology and did not know how to be romantic. In the end, his wife ran away with someone else. Since then, he had devoted almost all of his time and life to archaeology. Although he was now a prominent figure in the archaeological world, he had always been alone. However, he did not feel lonely. With these antiques by his side, he felt that his life was full of meaning. These antiques were like family to him. You came at the right time. I told you last time that I had a collection of interesting objects. You might be interested, Qi Shaowen said excitedly. Tang Jing smiled and said, it must be something good if it can catch your eye, Professor Qi. Qi Shaowen laughed. I won't be modest in front of you. I accept your compliments. Come with me to the back room. Qi Shaowen entered the back room mysteriously. Tang Jing followed him in with a smile. The back room did not have as many antiques as the living room. The furnishings were simpler, but they exuded a sense of exquisiteness. There was a table in the middle of the room. On the table was a large object, but it was covered by a black cloth. It was impossible to see what was inside. Qi Shaowen blinked at Tang Jing like a child. He asked mysteriously, what do you think is inside? Tang Jing laughed involuntarily and shook his head. There are thousands of antiques in the world. I can't guess. Just take a guess, Qi Shaowen egged him on. Seeing his confidence, Tang Jing muttered to himself. It must be something extremely rare. Otherwise it would not have piqued his interest. However, after thinking for a few seconds, he shook his head and admitted defeat. Professor Qi, I really can't guess. You should hurry up and reveal the mystery. Ah, it's not easy to baffle you. Take a good look. What is this? Qi Shaowen was in high spirits. He looked as if he had become 20 years younger. He was brimming with energy. He grabbed a corner of the black cloth and pulled it hard. The black cloth slid off, revealing the object's true appearance. There was a glass case covering an object. When Tang Jing's gaze fell on it, his eyes widened and he let out a cry of surprise. Seeing Tang Jing's reaction, even Professor Qi was shocked. He had never seen Tang Jing lose his composure like this before. He could not help but be curious. Could it be that he knew the origin of this object? Professor Qi himself had been researching it for a long time but still could not figure it out. How did Tang Jing know? Tang Jing could not help but be surprised. Inside the glass case was a skeleton. Tang Jing had seen ghosts and monsters before. Of course, a skeleton would not scare him. However, this was no ordinary skeleton. This skeleton was not a human. It was an animal. It had a long tail and 4 legs. It was a reptile. However, there was no other similar animal in this world. Tang Jing was not so knowledgeable. Therefore, he could not tell at a glance that this skeleton did not belong to any species in this world. The main reason he had such a big reaction was because when his gaze fell upon the skeleton, a figure immediately jumped out in his mind. It immediately overlapped with the skeleton, and it looked exactly the same. This figure was the extraterrestrial creature he had found in the crystal under the Swedish royal palace. Normally, a skeleton would not immediately make one think of an extraterrestrial creature. However, for some reason, Tang Jing only took one look at it and the figure jumped into his mind. It was so strange that he was caught off guard. He stared fixedly at the skeleton. His mind was in turmoil. Could it be that the extraterrestrial creature sealed in the crystal was not the only one in this world? Did it have other companions? What were these extraterrestrial creatures doing in this world? How were they related to Shenin? Tang Jing, what's wrong? Qi Shaowen asked worriedly when he saw Tang Jing's reaction. Tang Jing abruptly turned his head and stared straight at Qi Shaowen. Professor Qi, where did you find this skeleton? Is there anything special about this skeleton? Yes. Tang Jing nodded. I find it strange too. I've looked through all kinds of information and even consulted zoologists, but no one has ever seen the skeleton of this animal. It doesn't seem to belong to our world, Qi Shaowen mumbled to himself. Tang Jing said in a shocking voice, it's not a creature from our world to begin with. What? Qi Shaowen's eyes widened in disbelief. You're saying it's an extraterrestrial creature? You could say that. It does come from another world. How can you be so sure? Because I've seen its kind. Tang Jing hesitated for a moment, then told the truth. Qi Shaoan was shocked. His breathing quickened involuntarily. Humans had been searching for extraterrestrial creatures for a long time but had never found any evidence. Now, there was living proof right in front of him, and he was the one who discovered it. How could he not be shocked? If this news were to spread, it would cause a huge uproar and shock the world. Qi Shaoan took a few deep breaths and patted his chest. He was still very excited. His cheeks were red as he asked, "Where is its kind? Can I meet them?" "That's not a big deal. Professor Qi, can you tell me how you found this skeleton first?" Tang Jing wanted to get to the bottom of it. "It's actually a coincidence. I have a student who's in the business of salvaging ships. You know that there have been many shipwrecks in the sea since ancient times. Many treasures are buried in them. Some specialized exploration companies have organized professional teams to salvage and explore these shipwrecks. This skeleton was salvaged from the ruins of one of these shipwrecks. According to my student, the salvage work was very dangerous and a few people even lost their lives." Qi Shaoan began to explain. Chapter 992. After listening to Qi Shaoan's explanation, Tang Jing began to understand the whole story. This skeleton was salvaged from the ruins of a shipwreck. The salvage operation had cost the company a lot of effort and even cost a few people. This skeleton was part of the salvage operation. The original plan was to throw it away, but the student decided to keep it. He knew that his mentor liked these weird things, so he gave it to him. Qi Shaoan didn't pay much attention to this skeleton at first. However, after going through a lot of information, he couldn't find anything about this skeleton. This piqued his interest. "That's the whole story. Tang Jing, where did you see its kind?" asked Qi Shaoan. "It's a long story. Professor Qi, where is that senior brother now? I want to know more about the discovery of this skeleton. Didn't you say that a few people were killed? I want to know the details." Tang Jing wasn't in a hurry to answer. Instead, he threw out these two questions. Qi Shaoan didn't mind. He thought for a while and said, "I'll call him and ask." He dialed the number and asked a few questions. His eyes lit up with surprise. He said to Tang Jing, "He's still in the capital city. Can you arrange to meet him?" asked Tang Jing. "No problem. I'll ask him to come to the house. He'll be there soon." Qi Shaoan smiled. Since Tang Jing was so interested in this skeleton, he wanted to know the answer as well. Tang Jing circled around the skeleton again, carefully admiring every part of it, and secretly nodded his head. This skeleton had been soaked in the sea for who knows how many years, but it still did not have the slightest bit of damage. It could be seen how strong the skeleton was, and was definitely not an ordinary beast. This creature was probably equivalent to a monster in the Outland realm. He just didn't know how strong it was. If Xianyin hadn't sealed herself, he might have been able to get the answer from her. But now he could only rely on himself. After a while there was a knock on the door. When he opened the door, he saw a bearded man. If Qi Shaoan hadn't told him his age, Tang Jing would have thought that this man was in his 40s. In fact, he was only in his early 30s. Back then, he was also a very powerful student in the archaeology department. However, he could not stand the bureaucratic style of the official archaeology department and resigned in anger. Later, he was hired by his current employer with a high salary to participate in and preside over related underwater archaeological expeditions. His name was Wang Guanxuan and his name was Peerless. It was clear that his parents had high expectations for him. "Teacher, why did you call me here? Could it be that you found out the origin of that skeleton?" Wang Guanxuan walked in, looked at Tang Jing curiously, and then asked with full vigor. "Ah, smart. You guessed right." Qi Shaoan smiled and said, "Let me introduce you to someone first. He's your junior brother, Tang Jing. He's also one of the best in our archaeology department. I dare say that no one in our school can compare to him." Wang Guanxuan was shocked. He understood his teacher's temperament very well. He rarely praised others like this. What ability did this junior brother have to deserve such praise from his teacher? He nodded at Tang Jing with a smile and held out his hand. "A great teacher produces a great student. Congratulations on finding another excellent student. Senior brother Wang, nice to meet you." Tang Jing greeted politely. Wang Guanxuan laughed heartily and waved his hand. "Don't call me senior brother. I'm a few years older than you. Just call me Brother Wang." "Okay, Brother Wang. Thank you for coming in person this time." "Oh, that's too formal. We're all teacher students. It's a blessing that we've cultivated in our previous lives. It's fate that brought us together. Actually, I was going to visit teacher because I'm leaving tomorrow. I don't know when I'll be back to visit teacher again. So soon? You've only been back for a few days and you're going back to work again? Qi Shaoan was surprised. Well, the salvage work is not over yet. I came back mainly to take care of the deceased colleagues. Now that everything has been settled, I can't delay. The others are waiting for me to go back and take charge of the overall situation. I don't believe that I can't bite this hard bone. Wang Guanxuan said energetically. Brother Wang, this time I asked you to come because of this skeleton. Tang Jing said straightforwardly. Wang Guanxuan raised his eyebrows and looked at Tang Jing in surprise. Oh, could it be that you're interested in this skeleton? That's why teacher specially asked me to come? Yes, I want to know the details of how you found this skeleton. This involves trade secrets and shouldn't be made public. But since you've asked, I'll tell you the truth. Wang Guanxuan said generously. Thank you, Brother Wang. I'm all ears. We spent a lot of manpower and money to determine the location of this shipwreck site. We have a lot of experience in salvaging shipwrecks. We've never failed before, so we're very confident. After we did a lot of preparation, we dived into the shipwreck site. It was hundreds of meters deep and it was completely dark. It was a huge ship like an ancient warship. In the end, we found decayed turrets and weapons on the ship, as well as many skeletons. It confirmed our guess that this was indeed an ancient warship. In fact, there shouldn't be many valuable things on an ordinary warship. But since we've come down and done so much preparation work, we naturally can't go back empty-handed. So we snuck into the warship. Although it's been a long time and has been corroded by the sea, we can still see the glory of the warship. In ancient times, this warship was definitely a giant warship, the king of all warships. We found a lot of traces of fighting inside the warship. The warship was seriously damaged. This level of fighting didn't seem like something that could be done by human strength. Oh no, maybe those martial arts masters in Wuxia movies could do it? We guessed that maybe it was attacked by the enemy and engaged in a life-and-death battle with the enemy, causing the warship to sink. We went deeper and deeper. In the end, we found a lot of gold, silver, and jewels in the bottom of the warship. This made us very shocked because we didn't have much hope. We just came here with the intention of visiting. Moreover, this kind of situation didn't make sense. How could there be a lot of gold, silver, and jewels on the warship? But this undoubtedly made a huge change in our exploration work. It turned out that this was a real treasure trove. It was bigger than all the other shipwrecks we've explored before. So, we tried to pick up these treasures. When we put a box of treasures on equipment and were about to lift it up, a huge shadow suddenly rushed out of the darkness. We were caught off guard, and after sacrificing a few of our colleagues, the rest of us fled in panic. Of course, we brought the chest of treasures back with us. Later on, everyone recalled that the black shadow might have been a monster or a spirit. In short, everyone was scared stiff, so they temporarily stopped exploring and returned to the shore to rest and recuperate. We immediately began to study the box of treasures. But we found that there was a skeleton in the box. It took up almost half of the space, but there weren't many treasures. Everyone studied this skeleton for a long time, but they couldn't find anything. This kind of skeleton isn't valuable to our company, so I took it and gave it to my teacher as a research material. After listening to this, Tang Jing fell into deep thought. There were too many suspicious points about the sunken warship. The key point was, how could a creature from outer space be in the treasure chest of the warship? What was going on? Were there any other skeletons in the remaining treasure chests? Could there be more than one or two of these creatures from outer space? Could there be a large group of them? Tang Jing scratched his head but still couldn't figure it out. Seeing that he was silent, Wang Guanxuan and Qi Shaoan exchanged a glance. They didn't disturb him. Wang Guanxuan asked in a low voice, "Teacher, who is this junior brother? Why would he be interested in this skeleton? Is there a secret behind it?" Qi Shaoan shook his head. Tang Jing had too many secrets. As for his purpose, Qi Shaoan couldn't figure it out. So he said, "Ask him yourself later. I've never seen him like this before. I'm also very confused." Hearing Qi Shaoan's words, Wang Guanxuan was shocked. He knew very well how powerful his teacher was. Even he couldn't figure out Tang Jing. This proved that Tang Jing was extraordinary. He muttered in his heart, "The new generation really excels the old. When did the Department of Archaeology produce such a genius?" Tang Jing finally raised his head. He had more questions in his heart. He couldn't ignore them. So he said, "Brother Wang, there's something I need to ask of you." "What is it?" Tang Jing muttered to himself, "This time I want to go with you on your expedition. Is it okay if I don't?" "Well." Wang Guanxuan hesitated. This was related to the company's secrets. He couldn't make the decision at the moment. Guanxuan, after listening to your description, I realize that this expedition is very unusual. Someone even died. What if someone else dies this time? You might even be in danger. So, let me remind you, bringing Tang Jing with you is definitely beneficial for you. Qi Shaoan advised. Hearing his words, Wang Guanxuan said awkwardly, Teacher, I can't make the decision. I have to ask the boss for instructions. Seeing that he was so cautious, Tang Jing guessed that he wouldn't even tell him the location of the shipwreck. This time he had no choice but to cooperate with them. So he said, no problem. You can report to your boss that I'm sponsoring this expedition for free. For free? Wang Guanxuan was shocked. Undersea exploration was an activity that burned money. Just the submarine alone was a huge investment. Ordinary rich people couldn't afford this kind of activity. The most important thing was that this kind of exploration was more likely to be fruitless. It took months or even years to determine the location of a real shipwreck. During this time they had to burn money. Of course they were very welcome to sponsorships. Of course free sponsorships were rare. So, after hearing Tang Jing's words, Wang Guanxuan was even more confused. He couldn't figure out what Tang Jing was thinking. Chapter 993. 10 million was not a small sum. Wang Guanxuan doubted if his junior could afford it. However, judging from Qi Shaoan's nonchalant expression, Wang Guanxuan guessed that his junior was not lying. He bit his tongue and could not hide his surprise. He covered his phone and asked in a low voice, This is not a small sum. Are you sure? Tang Jing said calmly, I'm sure. Just report it to your boss. Wang Guanxuan glanced at Qi Shaoan. Seeing that he was unmoved, Wang Guanxuan did not stop him. He took a deep breath and suppressed his surging emotions. He removed his hand from the phone and reported it to his boss. Who is this generous friend? A dignified voice came from the phone. One of my juniors, Tang Jing. Tang Jing? Which Tang Jing? The other party's voice suddenly rose a few notches, and his breathing became hurried. Wang Guanxuan was confused. How many Tang Jings were there? This? Wang Guanxuan stammered, not knowing how to answer. You said that he's your juniors. That means he's also from the Department of Archaeology of Yenqing University. How many Tang Jings are there in the Department of Archaeology of Yenqing University? The man asked impatiently. Wang Guanxuan thought to himself, did the sun rise from the west? Why was everything so strange? Was the name Tang Jing very famous? Why had he never heard of him before? He spent most of his time on the sea and knew little about domestic affairs. Naturally, he had never heard of this name. But his boss was different. After all, he was also a person with a lot of wealth. Of course, he knew a lot about the various powers in the country, especially the name of Tang Jing, a rising star. It was almost enough to grind calluses out of his ears. Wang Guanxuan looked at Qi Shaoan for help. How many Tang Jings were there in the Department of Archaeology of Yenqing University? Only Professor Qi could answer this question. A meaningful smile appeared on Qi Shaoan's face. He said calmly, it's not just the archaeology department. There's only one Tang Jing in the entire Yenqing University. His voice was quite loud and the boss heard it clearly. His breathing was like a bellows and it sounded hurriedly. Wang Guanxuan was shocked by this scene and hurriedly asked, Boss, what happened to you? We can't accept this money. Ah, why? Wang Guanxuan felt incredulous. He didn't want the money that was given to him. The boss wasn't so generous. Not only can we not accept this sum of money, we must also satisfy all of young Master Tang's requests. The boss said resolutely, and he used the word must. There was no room for negotiation. I authorize you to talk to young Master Tang in detail. We will satisfy any request he has. The boss added again, afraid that Wang Guanxuan wouldn't understand his true intentions. Also, please send my regards to young Master Tang. Tell him that it's very rude of me to not visit him in person while I'm abroad. I'll definitely visit him as soon as possible. Wang Guanxuan was shocked to see the boss mobilize so many people. This was because he knew the boss very well. He was a successful person in many fields. He was usually arrogant and many successful people couldn't enter his eyes. Why did he have such a big reaction to a university student this time? He even felt a little cautious. Wang Guanxuan felt that all of this was like a dream. It was hard to imagine. He couldn't help but look at Tang Jing carefully. He wanted to see through this little junior brother of his. However, after looking at him for a long time, other than his calm appearance, there was nothing special about him. He didn't even have the legendary aura of a king. The urging voice on the phone woke him up as if he had just woken up from a dream. He quickly said to Tang Jing, "Junior brother, our boss said that we don't need your money, but we will satisfy any request you have. He also asked me to send his regards to you. Besides, he will find time to visit you." Tang Jing raised his thick eyebrows. This was beyond his expectation. "Do I know your boss? What's his name?" "Du Qifeng." Tang Jing shook his head. He really hadn't heard of this name. Wang Guanxuan's expression became more and more strange. He hadn't even heard of Tang Jing's name. Why did the boss have such a big reaction? He couldn't figure out the reason even after racking his brains. The boss had hung up the phone, so he didn't have a chance to ask. Tang Jing thought for a while and understood something. His name was well known and even had a deterrent effect. Even a boss he had never met was so respectful to him. No matter what the other party's purpose was, Tang Jing would remember this. "Brother Wang, since your boss has agreed, what time and where will you leave tomorrow?" Tang Jing asked. "We'll leave at 9 o'clock in the morning. We'll drive straight from the hotel to the harbor in the east. Our research boat is anchored at the harbor. We'll take the boat out to sea," Wang Guanxuan said honestly. Tang Jing nodded. "Then I'll see you there. As for this skeleton, Professor Qi, can I take it with me?" Qi Shaoan laughed and made a gesture of pushing his hands forward. He said generously, "I can't figure out its origin anyway. Since you have a clue, you can take it with you. However, if you really find out the secret in the future, don't keep it to yourself. You must remember to tell me." Although Qi Shaoan knew that Tang Jing already knew a lot about the origin of this unknown creature, he didn't insist on getting to the bottom of it. Instead, he waited for all the answers to surface before waiting for Tang Jing's explanation. This showed how much he trusted Tang Jing. Wang Guanxuan took a deep look at his mentor and Tang Jing. This pair of teacher and student seemed to be different from before. At least among all the students that Wang Guanxuan knew, none of them were like Tang Jing. Tang Jing smiled faintly and nodded. "Professor Qi, don't worry. I'll tell you everything when I find out all the secrets." "Okay, then I'll wait for that day." Qi Shaoan didn't mind at all. Tang Jing gently opened the glass cover. Wang Guanxuan hurriedly asked, "Are you going to take it away just like that?" Since he was going to explore the sea with Wang Guanxuan, some secrets couldn't be hidden from him. Therefore Tang Jing didn't try to hide it. He smiled mysteriously at him and said, "I have a little trick that can take this skeleton away." "A little trick?" Wang Guanxuan was confused. In the next second, his whole body stiffened as if someone had cast a spell on him. He was dumbfounded. "What did I just see?" A voice sounded in his mind. "I saw that skeleton disappear right under my nose. It disappeared in the blink of an eye. Where did it go?" Wang Guanxuan looked around, trying to find the skeleton. However, he found that nothing had changed. Besides, there was no place to hide the skeleton. Wang Guanxuan stammered. After a long while, he squeezed out a sentence. What is going on? Where is the skeleton?" Tang Jing smiled mysteriously. "It's just a little trick. Sorry for the inconvenience. Professor Qi, I'm here to talk to you about reinstating my status as a student. Please tell Yan Liang that I agree to go back to school." Before leaving, Tang Jing finally revealed his purpose of visit. He had been distracted by the skeleton just now and had almost forgotten about it. Qi Shaoan smiled in relief. "That's a wise choice. I believe that you can achieve better results. I'll tell Yan Liang. As for whether I'll be attending classes or not, tell him that I'll definitely be absent. When the time comes, don't bother me with this kind of thing. Otherwise I'll just leave." Tang Jing added. These conditions had to be agreed upon in advance. Otherwise it would be troublesome when the time came. "No problem. In fact, as long as you agree to go back to school, none of the problems will be a problem. The school has really put in a lot of effort to get you back," Professor Qi said. Tang Jing nodded with a smile. He saluted Wang Guanxuan and said, "Professor Qi, Brother Wang, I'll take my leave now. See you tomorrow." After Tang Jing left, Wang Guanxuan whipped his head around to look at Professor Qi. He asked, "Professor, who is this junior brother? How did he do all this? Also, our boss called him young Master Tang. Which big family does he belong to? I've never heard of any family with the surname Tang in the country." Qi Shaoan was pleased to see his student's shocked expression. If he did not know Tang Jing well enough, he would have reacted the same way as Wang Guanxuan. "You used to think that you were extraordinary. Now you understand that there is always someone better than you?" Qi Shaoan asked with a smile. Wang Guanxuan nodded with a bitter expression. "I've always kept your teachings in mind, Professor. It's just that today's events are so unusual. Please enlighten me, Professor. If you have doubts, you have to find the answers on your own." What others tell you is ultimately superficial. Only by finding the answers on your own will you be able to leave a deeper impression. Professor Qi was unaware of Tang Zheng's plans, so he did not reveal any details about him. Wang Guanxuan could do nothing about Professor Qi's charade. He could only smile bitterly. Professor, why do I feel like everything has become so mysterious when I come back this time? Qi Shaoan clapped his hands and laughed heartily. One is marked by the company one keeps. After spending so much time with Tang Zheng, I do feel like I've become a lot more mysterious. Is he really that magical? Wang Guanxuan was skeptical. You'll know when the time comes. Wang Guanxuan shook his head and smiled bitterly. It seemed that he really needed to figure out this junior brother of his. He did not know why he had spent so much effort on this archaeological expedition. Perhaps the answer to all these questions would only be revealed when the time came. Tang Zheng returned home and informed everyone of his decision. Instantly there was an uproar. This was because he had only been home for a short period of time. His butt had not even warmed up before he had to leave again. When would this life of running around come to an end? Although the atmosphere in this big villa was usually a little strange, with open strife and veiled strife, these were all centered around Tang Zheng. If he were to leave, who would these strife and veiled strife be for? Several people volunteered to go with him. However, Tang Zheng considered the special nature of the undersea warship, especially since it involved creatures from the outland. He could not afford to be careless. Therefore it was better not to bring anyone along. If there were any dangers, he would have to come up with corresponding countermeasures. Although everyone had different opinions, none of them could shake Tang Zheng's determination. Chapter 994. Although his determination was firm, he could not withstand the condemnation of a room full of women. Tang Zheng felt as if his head was about to explode as he felt helpless. Translator, Zephizi editor, Dio Quinn. He finally experienced the bitterness of the ancient emperors. There were 3,000 beauties in his harem and he only had a few women in his room. He felt as if his head was about to explode. He did not know how those emperors managed to survive. Looking at everyone's unyielding eyes, he finally compromised. All right, I can bring someone, but only one person. You guys decide who will go. Everyone looked at each other when they heard this. Suddenly Yi Dingdang had an idea and said, draw lots. Whoever wins will go. All right. Everyone agreed. After a while, a few paper balls were prepared. Only one of them had words on it while the others were blank. Only the one who grabbed the words would be considered the winner. Fang Shishir, Yi Dingdang, Wu, and even Lu Qingmei participated, attracting everyone's attention. Although Lu Qingmei was nervous and shy in her heart, she still braced herself and participated in the competition. Her life during this period of time had a great impact on her. Seeing one woman after another openly compete for favor, she felt uncomfortable in her heart. She was also Tang Zheng's woman. Although she was previously a teacher, she did not dare to brazenly expose this layer of window paper. But now that she was no longer a teacher, she wanted to enjoy the same treatment as other women. This was the most instinctive feeling and reaction of a woman. Therefore, after hesitating for a long time, she finally took this step today. Without a doubt, from today onwards, her identity would definitely arouse suspicion. She would not admit it, nor would she deny it for the time being. She only wanted to gradually express her true feelings. Seeing everyone look at her, Lu Qingmei repeatedly told herself not to feel guilty and that she must remain calm. Therefore she clenched her teeth and calmly chose a paper ball. Yi Dingdong's heart jolted as she guessed something. She exchanged a glance with Fang Shishir and couldn't hide the shock in her heart. Could it be that Lu Laoshi and Tang Zheng? They instantly realized that they had been fooled. It turned out that there was a huge competitor hidden by their side all along. Like them, this competitor had known Tang Zheng the longest. She was even more of a threat than Anne, whom they had always been wary of. Yi Dingdang was like a kitten whose tail had been stepped on. Her entire body bristled and she almost jumped up. If not for the fact that there were so many people around, she would have jumped up and questioned Tang Zheng. At this moment, she could only glare fiercely at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng did not expect that Lu Qingmei would actually take this step. Although he was shocked, he did not blame her. As a man, how could he blame his own woman? She did this because she had her own concerns. Tang Zheng would definitely stand behind her unwaveringly. Looking at Yi Dingdong's gaze, Tang Zheng looked down and pretended not to see it. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at each other, unable to hide their surprise and worry. They sighed inwardly and could only smile bitterly. Their romantic debt was increasing. When would it end? Empyrean Fairy expressionlessly glanced at them. Her heart was as clear as a mirror. As an outsider she could see the most clearly. Although Tang Zheng and Lu Qingmei did not normally speak or act strangely, she was still able to detect some clues. Now that she saw it, it was exactly as she had guessed. She was not surprised and her eyes were somewhat playful. After all, she was a person from ancient times. It was not strange for her to have 3 wives and 4 concubines. However, she had always been a firm believer in uniqueness. She did not fit in with the environment of her time. She hoped that her lover would only treat her well. No matter how outstanding the other party was, she would not accept a half-hearted person. However, she would not criticize Tang Zheng. She believed that this was a common characteristic of many men. He was not an exception. "All right, announce the results." Yi Dingdang impatiently opened the paper ball, but found that it was blank. It was difficult to hide her disappointment. She quickly turned her head towards Fang Shishir and found that it was also blank. There was a feeling of sympathy for each other. Could it be you? Yi Dingdang unwillingly looked at Anne. And of course also hoped that it was her. She opened the paper ball full of expectation. It was blank and was not selected. Immediately, everyone's eyes fell on Marshall and Lu Qingmei's paper ball. Yi Dingdang made a fuss and impatiently urged, "Hurry up and open the paper ball to reveal the answer." Marshall and Fang Shishir looked at each other and Marshall was the first to open the paper ball. Blank. Everyone was shocked. No one was selected, so the only one left was the winner. There was no need to open the paper ball. In an instant, everyone's gazes became thought-provoking. Yi Dingdang indignantly said, "Teacher Lu, how could it be you?" She purposely emphasized the word teacher as she was unwilling to accept this result. Lu Qingmei's heart flashed with a trace of panic. She glanced at Tang Zheng and finally gathered her courage and lightly said, "This is luck." Yi Dingdang wanted to say more but was held back by Fang Shishir. Seeing that the one selected was Lu Qingmei, Tang Zheng was relieved. Lu Qingmei's character was soft but firm. This could be seen when she left home and chose to work alone. Since she chose to do this, then she would definitely carry it out. Tang Zheng clapped his hands and made the final decision. "Since the results are out, then Teacher Lu, you should prepare. We will leave early tomorrow morning." Although the others were disappointed, they could not say anything. They had to accept their loss. That night, Tang Zheng heard a sound coming from the window. He suddenly opened his eyes and bitterly smiled. Without a doubt, it was definitely Yi Dingdang who liked to climb through the window. Sure enough, a fragrant wind assaulted his nostrils. He was immediately pressed down on the bed by Yi Dingdang with both of his hands locked. "Tell me the truth. When did you hook up with Teacher Lu?" Yi Dingdang was like a tigress. Seeing Yi Dingdang who was inches away, Tang Jing bitterly smiled. "What do you mean by hook up? It's so unpleasant to hear." Yi Dingdang opened her eyes wide and said, "You did something bad and you still want me to find a good word? No way. Don't change the topic and tell me the truth." How could Tang Jing allow her to control the situation? He withdrew his hands and freed himself from her grasp. He flipped over and pressed her down on the bed. He pretended to be fierce and said, "After not being beaten for 3 days, you climbed the roof and tore the tiles. You even secretly climbed through the window. Are you addicted? Hey, for a flower thief like you, this great hero will properly punish you." After he finished speaking, he moved his hands up and down. Yi Dingdang immediately cried out and continuously struggled to resist. However, how could she escape from Tang Zheng's evil claws? After a while, she became a naked Shao by sheep and was ruthlessly punished by Tang Zheng. Yi Dingdang also seemed to have forgotten the purpose of this trip. She was immersed in wave after wave of pleasure and completely lost herself. The next morning, Tang Zheng was refreshed. The battle last night ended with him winning. Although Yi Dingdang tried to seize the initiative several times, she was subdued by him one by one. In the end, she threw away her helmet and armor and became like water. But when the sky was about to brighten, she resisted the soreness of her body and secretly climbed through the window to return to her room. Looking at her clumsy appearance, Tang Zheng could not help but laugh. Yi Dingdang continuously glared at him. Tang Zheng and Lu Qingmei said goodbye to everyone. After walking a distance, Lu Qingmei took the initiative to hold Tang Zheng's hand. Tang Zheng stopped and looked at her eyes that were curved like autumn water. His heart warmed and he hugged her. Under the sunlight, the two people tightly hugged each other, feeling each other's body temperature and heartbeat. Lu Qingmei very much enjoyed the feeling of tightly hugging him under the sunlight. It was like an underground relationship that finally came out into the light and was no longer sneaky. "I want to always openly walk with you like this and hug each other," Lu Qingmei whispered in his ear. Tang Jing kissed her earlobe and said softly, "As long as you want it, it will definitely come true." Actually, after making that decision and action last night, she was still a bit nervous. She was worried that Tang Zheng would blame her, but she just could not suppress the feelings in her heart. But after hearing his words, the passion in her heart was suddenly released. She wanted nothing more than to knead him into her body. In the past, I always wanted to secretly like you. It was enough to enjoy the happiness of being married. But you are a kind of poison. Once I touch you, I will never be able to give up. Even if I am a moth flying into a flame, I am still willing. I am not satisfied with the happiness of being married. My only hope is to be able to walk under the sun. Lu Qingmei emotionally said. Tang Zheng's heart was filled with tenderness as he deeply kissed her. After a long time, their lips parted and Tang Zheng firmly said, I promise you I will give you everything you want. After being warm for a long time, the haze in Lu Qingmei's heart was finally blown away by the wind, turning into eyes that filled the sky. Even her pores were filled with joy and vitality. The two people hand in hand arrived at the agreed place. Wang Guanchuan had been waiting for a long time. When he saw Tang Zheng walking over with a beautiful woman, he was incomparably astonished. Wang Guanchuan's several colleagues' eyes were fixed on Lu Qingmei's body. They could not hide their amazement. These archaeologists were originally dull. Their usual work was more related to dealing with antiques. How could they have the opportunity to see so many beautiful women? Moreover, they had stayed in the vast sea for several months. When they saw a sow, they would think it was a Diaochan. Moreover, a great beauty like Lu Qingmei was even more shocking. They felt that she was a fairy that had descended to the mortal world. Ever since Lu Qingmei started cultivating, her skin and temperament had undergone a huge change. She lost the immaturity of a young girl and gained a mature charm. However, she was not completely mature, causing people to feel a rush of excitement at a glance. This is? Wang Guanchuan curiously asked. My girlfriend Lu Qingmei. Tang Zheng generously introduced. Lu Qingmei gratefully glanced at Tang Zheng. This girlfriend was undoubtedly a response to her heartfelt words. He wanted to let her walk under the sun with her head held high. Hehe, junior brother is really lucky to have such a beautiful girlfriend. Wang Guanchuan praised. Can I bring her along? Chapter 995. Marshall reluctantly left Tang Zheng's embrace, but she still held onto his hand tightly. Under the watchful eyes of the crowd, she was unwilling to let go. Feeling her attachment, Tang Zheng felt a warm current flow through his heart. On the other side, Linger also tightly hugged one of his arms. It was simply the treatment of hugging left and right. The Witch clan was not surprised. Instead, they felt that these women were truly honored to be able to obtain the favor of the Lord Envoy. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu looked at their son with excitement and relief. During this period of time, Lan Yu had become much more haggard. Thinking about it day and night, he was extremely worried. Tang Zheng nodded to the two of them. Lan Yu asked with concern, I don't know how many dangers you've experienced on this trip. It's been hard on you. Tang Zheng smiled and shook his head, saying that it wasn't hard. Don't stand outside for now. Let's talk inside. Lan Yu said. The few of them entered the house and found that only the Empyrean Fairy and Fu Yao were there. Where are the others? Tang Zheng asked curiously. Those women of yours have not returned from their trip to the island. Yi Ding Dang An and are like stalkers all day staring at each other. If one of them goes out, how could the other not follow? The Empyrean Fairy said calmly. Tang Zheng shook his head and smiled bitterly. Only the Empyrean Fairy dared to speak so unscrupulously in front of him. I didn't expect your trip to the Ghost Realm to end so quickly. The Empyrean Fairy sat up straight and looked at Tang Zheng with interest. Although the Empyrean Fairy had never been to the Ghost Realm, she had heard a little about it. She did not think that it was some kind of paradise. It was a place of true danger. The fact that Tang Zheng had returned so quickly and safely was truly out of her expectations. With the help of a noble, everything went smoothly. What noble? Although the Empyrean Fairy's cultivation was high, she had never been to the other world. Naturally, she was full of curiosity, and she couldn't hide her curiosity about the nobles. Wu Junshan, Lan Yu, and the others also widened their eyes and stared at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng briefly explained the trip to the Ghost Realm. When the few of them heard this, they sucked in a breath of cold air, especially Lan Yu and Wu. Their expressions were especially worried. Wu grabbed onto Tang Zheng's palm and broke out in cold sweat. It's so dangerous. Don't go to that damn place again. Marshall said with lingering fear. Lan Yu hurriedly agreed. That's right. The Ghost Realm is too dangerous. Don't ever go there again. After all, the 10 Yama Kings are not to be trifled with. If they plot against you, it'll be too late for regrets. Master is really amazing. Ling'er was innocent and didn't feel that it was too dangerous. Instead, she felt that her master was an unparalleled hero. The Empyrean fairy listened with great interest. Her eyes became brighter and brighter. She suddenly nodded and said, "So the ghost realm not only has the 10 Yama kings, but also an even more powerful Dizang of Goguryeo. This is really surprising. With the Dizang of Goguryeo upholding justice, the two realms are at peace. This is definitely a good thing for us. We don't have to worry about the ghost realm for the time being." After pausing for a moment, the Empyrean fairy changed the topic and said, "However, the ghost realm still has the 10 Yama kings. In the future there might be some unforeseen events. Therefore we can't let down our guard. With the Dizang of Goguryeo presiding over the situation, there shouldn't be any unforeseen events, right?" Tang Zheng felt that the Empyrean fairy was making a mountain out of a molehill. The Empyrean fairy smiled. "I've seen too many people and too many things in the past. The ghost realm isn't much different from the human world. Everything is developing and changing. The Dizang of Goguryeo can preside over the situation now, but it doesn't mean that he can in the future. Therefore we still have to be fully prepared." Wu Junshan, who had been silent all this time, finally spoke. Fu Yao's words make sense. Humans are the most fickle and ghosts are no exception. It's too early to discuss this matter. Tang Jing didn't want to talk more and changed the topic. "You didn't tell anyone about my trip to the ghost realm, right?" "According to your instructions, we didn't tell anyone." "That's good." Tang Jing breathed a sigh of relief. He didn't want Yi Dingdang and the others to worry about him. Just as they were talking, the door was pushed open and An walked in angrily. She said indignantly, "Yi Dingdang, don't go too far. Wherever I go you go. Do you think I'm a spy?" Yi Dingdang's clear voice came from outside the door. "Who said I thought you were a spy? This isn't your country, this is my country. I can go wherever I want. What can you do about it?" Annie was about to retaliate when her eyes suddenly stared blankly as she screamed. Like a rabbit, she jumped up with a "so" sound and pounced towards Tang Jing. Looking at the aggressive and Tang Jing jumped up from the sofa and dodged to the side. And missed and fell on the sofa. Tang Jing was shocked by this scene. When he left and followed him. Later, he asked Yi Dingdang to keep an eye on her so that they could leave. They just met Anne and actually pounced on him. If he was really pushed down by her in front of everyone, he wouldn't be able to clear his name even if he jumped into the Yellow River. Doubts arose in his heart. When did Anne become so fierce? It didn't seem like her style in the past. Although Anne dared to do things, she still had the blood of the royal family flowing in her body. She had the natural grace of a noble in the palace. How did she become like a violent leopard? However, he didn't know how much Anne's life had changed during this time. Ever since she openly announced that she liked Tang Zheng in front of everyone and wanted to pursue him, Yi Dingdang had listed her as the #1 enemy. That was why she gave up on the island trip and stayed behind to guard and so that she wouldn't have a chance to take advantage of any loopholes. And couldn't beat Yi Dingdang in a fight. She was also no match for Yi Dingdang in a brutal way. Being watched every day almost drove Anne crazy, but she couldn't do anything about it. If looks could kill, Yi Dingdang would have been riddled with holes and died countless times. Yi Dingdang knew that she couldn't do anything to Anne, so she took a step back and took this kind of non-violent action. While Tang Jing wasn't around, it was best to annoy Anne and then pack up and leave. That was the best outcome. But in the end, what Yi Dingdang didn't expect was that although Anne was on the verge of going berserk every time, in the end she took a few deep breaths and actually endured it. A dignified princess actually endured such a huge grievance. If she wasn't her love rival, Yi Dingdang would have to admire her. Yi Dingdang couldn't do anything about it, but she became even more vigilant. Hearing Anne scream, Yi Dingdang also suddenly saw Tang Zheng on the sofa. Before she could react, she realized that Anne had actually rushed towards Tang Zheng. Yi Dingdang was so angry that smoke was coming out of her 7 orifices. 3 words popped up in her mind: shameless. Seeing that and missed, Yi Dingdang finally laughed gloatingly. She slipped and also rushed in front of Tang Zheng. Like a swallow returning to the forest, she threw herself into his arms and winked at Anne as if showing off. When Anne saw that Yi Dingdang had caught up with her, she angrily glared at Tang Zheng as if blaming him for not understanding the situation and avoiding her. A fragrant scent entered his nose as a soft body fell into his arms. Tang Zheng subconsciously hugged Yi Dingdang, and her hands hooked around his neck. Ahem. Wu Junshan coughed dryly as if reminding them that there were outsiders present. Tang Zheng's expression was resentful when he realized that everyone was looking at him strangely. Just now he was hugging one woman on each side and now there was another one. This kind of scene was not suitable for children. Stand still. How old are you? Still making a fuss? Tang Zheng pretended to be serious as he reluctantly let go of the softness in his palms. Yi Dingdang smiled sweetly and said coquettishly, "You still dare to scold me? You have no conscience. To think that I was so worried about you." Tang Zheng resentfully said in a low voice, "So many people are watching." Yi Dingdang bit her lip and glared at him. She said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "I'll deal with you tonight." Tang Zheng's head shook. When he was in the ghost realm, his pure yang energy had exploded. If it weren't for luck, he would have exploded and died. Hearing Yi Dingdang's provocative words, his little thoughts couldn't help but stir. His pure yang energy seemed to be restless again. "Tang Zheng, you've been away for so long. I also miss you very much." Seeing the two separated and took the initiative to walk over. She stretched out her arms as if she wanted Tang Zheng to give her a big hug. Looking at Yi Dingdang's eyes that were about to spit fire, Tang Zheng didn't dare to enjoy this beauty's kindness. As if he didn't see it, he politely said, "Thank you for Anne's concern. I'm too tired from the journey. I'll go back to my room to rest first. You can continue chatting." The atmosphere in the living room was so strange that Tang Zheng didn't want to stay and attract the fire. He quickly slipped away and returned to his room. Yi Dingdang was like a general who had won a battle. She proudly glanced at Anne as if to say that compared to her, she was still too young, and angrily stomped her foot. She clenched her teeth and refused to admit defeat as she said, "Let's wait and see." She walked back to her room in her high heels. Her room was right next to Tang Zheng's. It was her act of moving her room that provoked the other women. They hated her blatant act of poaching, but because she was too open and honorable, and also had the status of a princess, the others couldn't do anything about it. Wu Junshan worriedly looked at this scene. He looked at his wife and the two of them walked to the side and whispered to each other. Tang Zheng's charm to attract girls is too great. It's like a war is going on at home all day. It's not a good thing. As his mother, shouldn't you remind him? Wu Junshan worriedly said. How can I say something like this? Shouldn't you, the father, be the one to say it? Lan Yu rolled her eyes. Although it's a bit inappropriate, at least it proves that our son's charm is great. An old man like you naturally can't compare. Wu Junshan bitterly smiled. How can I compare to him? I'm just worried that there will be a fire in the backyard. After all, women can be very scary when they go crazy. Lan Yu glared at him and asked, You're saying that I'm scary? When was I talking about you? Am I not a woman? I'm talking about other women? Chapter 996. The moon was bright and the stars were sparse as a rustling sound came from the window. Tang Jing suddenly opened his eyes as he guessed that there was someone outside the window. The window was gently pushed open and a person jumped in. His movements were swift and vigorous. Tang Jing did a carp flip as he jumped off the bed and grabbed the person's shoulder. With a shoulder throw, the person was thrown onto the bed. He quickly followed up and reached out with his large hand, grabbing the other person's neck. This series of actions flowed smoothly like water. "Ayo!" A cry of alarm sounded. "What are you doing? Are you going to kill me?" "Ding dang, why is it you?" Tang Zheng was startled by this voice as he thought that an enemy had sneaked in. He never thought that it would be this girl. Tang Zheng quickly turned on the lights and saw Yi Dingdang lying on the bed. Her clothes were messy and her nightgown was rolled up to her thighs, revealing her two shining white thighs. "Why can't it be me? Heng, you were waiting for someone else to come, right? And or whoa." Yi Dingdang angrily stood up as her almond eyes widened. "Nonsense, there's no such thing. Heng, don't say you didn't think about it." Yi Dingdang glanced at him as if she had already seen through his thoughts. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry as he looked at her beautiful appearance under the light. His heart moved as he hugged her slender waist. "What are you doing? Let go of your claws." Yi Dingdang slapped his hand a few times. Seeing that there was no way to stop him, she just let him do whatever he wanted. Looking at Yi Dingdang, who was just inches away, Tang Zheng's breathing couldn't help but become heavier as he said, "Did you miss me? So you specially snuck in to climb my window? Who missed you? Shameless." Yi Dingdang gave a hang and turned her head away, but the expression between her eyebrows betrayed her. She really missed him. After being apart for such a long time, it was better to be apart than to be newly married. This kind of feeling could only be understood by those involved. "But I miss you." Tang Jing stared intently into her eyes, his voice full of emotion. Yi Dingdang's cheeks reddened as she said, "Who asked you to think about it? You're thinking about Anne, right? Hey, you're still talking about her? I think you're asking for a beating. Tang Jing immediately put on a straight face and slapped Yi Dingdang's butt. Bah! The slap was clear and loud in the night. Yi Dingdang felt as if she had been electrocuted. Her entire body trembled, and her cheeks immediately turned into a ripe apple. She clenched her teeth and struggled to resist the throbbing in her heart. Tang Jing's head swayed as he took the opportunity to press her down on the bed. Yi Dingdang's hands were pressed against his chest, but she still couldn't resist his evil claws. Very soon her body and mind completely fell. The moonlight shined in from the window and shined on the two bodies on the bed. The moon seemed to be shy as it secretly hid in the clouds, leaving only the two naked bodies tossing around each other under the light. "Io?" Suddenly Tang Jing softly cried out, "What are you doing?" He saw Yi Dingdang biting his shoulder, 2 rows of snow-white teeth leaving 2 rows of teeth marks on his shoulder. Yi Dingdang's eyes revealed a proud expression as she breathed out and said, "Who told you to toss me around and flirt with other women? This is your fate. Are you a dog? You're the dog." Yi Dingdang bared her teeth as if she wanted to take another bite. "Good, you bit me, so I'm going to bite you." Tang Jing suddenly lowered his head and opened his mouth. "Ah, you can't bite there." "Ah." At daybreak, Tang Jing walked out of the room with a faint smile on his face. He was reminiscing about last night's exciting battle. Yi Dingdang was like a little pepper. She was really hot enough to leave him with a rich aftertaste. His pure young energy was completely appeased for the time being. He felt refreshed and his spirit was 100 times better. Yi Dingdang walked down from the 2nd floor. Her face was glowing like a flower that had been nourished. Last night, although her legs were weak, she still quietly returned to her room. This act of deceiving herself made Tang Jing laugh endlessly. Seeing Tang Jing looking at her, Yi Dingdang fiercely glared at him. After breakfast, Tang Jing sat under a big tree in the courtyard, basking in the sun and resting with his eyes closed. Linger sat at the side holding a fruit plate. She used a fork to fork a small piece of fruit and fed it to his mouth. He lazily opened his mouth and the fruit was sent into his mouth. He enjoyed it incomparably. He was simply a hedonistic young master from the old society. Linger was a big star, but she was not tired of doing the work of a little servant girl. Her face was brimming with a smile that was even brighter than the sun. Yi Dingdang looked at the two of them at the door and helplessly shook her head. Linger was really hopeless. Was there a need to spoil him like this? How could Tang Jing bear to order such an innocent and cute little girl around like this? And sat at the side and did not have this kind of treatment. On the contrary, because of Linger's existence, she almost could not get a word in edgewise. Yi Dingdang was happy to see and suffer, so she hid at the side and snickered. "Who is it? Stop." Suddenly, the voice of a Witch clan warrior came from outside the courtyard. I'm looking for someone." A man said submissively. "Who are you looking for?" "Tang Jing." "Why are you looking for our Lord Messenger?" "Lord Messenger?" The man was obviously stunned. He was at a loss and did not know what to do. Tang Jing recognized this voice. It was his former tutor, Yan Liang. However, he did not want to pay attention to him. After all, they were practically from 2 different worlds. There was no need to ridicule each other for their past disputes. The school hasn't given up yet. Are they still trying to persuade me to go back to school? Tang Jing could not help but laugh. His life now was too dangerous and exciting. School life seemed like child's play to him. Moreover, the school had already revoked his student status. He really did not have much interest in it. Go and tell Tang Jing that Qi Shaoan wants to see him. Another old voice sounded. Tang Jing shot up from his chair and exclaimed in a low voice, "Professor Qi, why is he here?" He quickly walked to the door. As expected, Professor Qi Shaoan and Yan Liang were standing at the door. Yan Liang was very uneasy. He did not know where to put his hands and feet. Qi Shaoan's hair was gray but his expression was calm. He stood there proudly. Yan Liang's aura paled in comparison. "Professor Qi, why are you here?" Tang Jing greeted him warmly. Qi Shaoan saw Tang Jing and a smile appeared on his face. He teased, "It's not easy to see you. You even have guards." "Professor Qi, you must be joking." "I have no choice. The capital city has not been peaceful recently." "Yes, too many things have happened in the capital city recently. It's as if the world has been turned upside down." Qi Shaoan sighed. His gaze involuntarily fell on Ling Er. She stood aside obediently with a plate of fruit. She was very attractive. "Brother, do you want some?" Ling Er asked while forking a piece of fruit. In front of outsiders, she would automatically call him brother. This was something Tang Jing had repeatedly reminded her. She finally remembered it. "I'm not eating." You go back to the house first. Oh, I'll feed you later. Ling carried the plate of fruit and floated away like a fairy. Only her beautiful back could be seen. In the eyes of Qi Shaowen and Yan Liang, the significance of this scene became extraordinarily significant. Qi Shaowen had seen Tang Zheng's tricks. He was slightly surprised but did not pay much attention to it. Yan Liang, however, recognized Ling. Tang Ling had been appearing frequently recently. Her popularity had spread far and wide. Although Yan Liang was not a fan of celebrities, he was still a young man. It was not difficult for him to recognize her. Tang Ling was even prettier in person than on screen. But why was she so nice to Tang Zheng? She was like a maid serving him. This did not make sense. She was a superstar. Were they filming a movie? Seeing that Qi Shaowen had been invited into the courtyard, Yan Liang followed him in shamelessly. Princess, and you're here too. Qi Shaowen nodded at Anne. He knew her. And stood up and returned the greeting politely. Professor Qi, nice to meet you. Yan Liang's brain shut down. Didn't Anne come back to China? Why was she at Tang Zheng's house? Tang Zheng was indeed a powerful man, but he could not be this powerful. Not only did he have a superstar as his maid, but he also had a European princess as his mistress. After both of them were seated, Ling walked out with a cup of tea. She said in a crisp voice, "Grandpa, please have some tea." Qi Shaowen smiled happily. "Okay, thank you, young lady." When Yan Liang saw Ling serving him tea, he hurriedly stood up. His face was as red as a tomato. He took the cup with trembling hands and sat down nervously. "Professor Qi, long time no see. You look better," said Tang Zheng. Qi Shaowen shook his head and sighed. "I'm old and useless. I have to admit that I'm old." "You're a leading figure in the archaeological field. You're a walking treasure trove. You're not old at all. So many people are counting on you to teach them a thing or two." Qi Shaowen smiled in relief and started chatting. Yan Liang could not get a word in edgewise. He sat awkwardly as if he was sitting on pins and needles. The two beautiful women sitting opposite him were too intimidating. Yan Liang's usual bossy attitude towards students was completely gone. He felt a little breathless. "Tang Zheng, let's not beat around the bush. I'm here on a commission," said Qi Shaowen. "Oh, what's the matter?" Qi Shaowen glanced at Yan Liang and said, "The school still hopes that you can go back to school. After all, your grades have always been excellent. The school doesn't want to lose a talent like you. As for the cancellation of your student status, it's all a misunderstanding. The person who did it has already been punished." "Professor Qi, the school's leaders are really smart. I can't believe they got you to persuade them." Tang Zheng smiled and teased. Everyone knew that Tang Zheng was close to Professor Qi Shaowen. He was indeed the most suitable person to persuade them. "Actually, I think that university life is still necessary. Although I know that you can't study forever, you can still study as long as you can. This is a life journey. You shouldn't give up halfway," Qi Shaowen advised. Yan Liang felt as if he had just woken up from a dream. Only then did he remember his mission. He nodded hurriedly and said, "Professor Qi, you're right. University life is still necessary." Tang Zheng glanced at Yan Liang casually. Yan Liang's heart skipped a beat. He quickly shut his mouth and laughed dryly. "The school's attitude is very open-minded. If you have any concerns or requests, feel free to tell us. The school will try its best to satisfy you." Qi Shaowen continued persuading him earnestly. Chapter 997. "No, definitely not." Yan Liang promised after hearing Tang Zheng's words. Tang Zheng glanced at him and asked, "Is your promise useful?" Yan Liang's cheeks flushed red. He stammered, "The school told me to tell you that there won't be any more unpleasant incidents." Tang Zheng waved his hand and said, "There's no need to talk about this anymore." Yan Liang's face turned pale when he realized that he was about to return empty-handed. He looked at Qi Shaowen with pleading eyes. The school had given him an ultimatum. If he could not persuade Tang Zheng to return to school, his career as a tutor would be over. He could forget about getting promoted in the future. That was why Yan Liang went to ask Qi Shaowen for help. Qi Shaowen was kind on the outside but soft on the inside. He was persuaded when he saw Yan Liang's pitiful face with snot and tears. Of course, Qi Shaowen also thought that university life was very important. He felt that it was a pity to see Tang Zheng leave school, so he agreed to talk to him. "Tang Zheng, you don't have to rush to answer. Think about it first. There are still a few days before school starts. You can tell us then," said Qi Shaowen. Looking at his eager eyes, Tang Zheng swallowed back the words of rejection. Since Professor Qi had already said so, Then he would drag it out for a few days, so he nodded and said, "Okay, I'll reply to you after a while. Thank you so much. We'll wait for your good news." Yan Liang was overjoyed and moved to tears. This was the first step in a long journey. As long as he did not reject him outright, it meant that there was still a chance. Yan Liang could almost see a bright future waving at him. "Then I'll take my leave. I found a few nice antiques recently. Come and have a look when you have time," said Qi Shaowen. "Stay for lunch." "No, next time." Qi Shaowen knew that Tang Jing and Yan Liang did not get along. The atmosphere was not harmonious. Tang Jing walked them to the door and waved goodbye. Yan Liang kept nodding and bowing, showing a flattered look. "If you go back to school, then we'll be classmates again." Yi Dingdang walked out and joked. "Don't you want to be my classmate? Suit yourself." Yi Dingdang shrugged and said nonchalantly, "I'm just worried about those fresh flowers in school. If you go back, who knows who will fall into your evil clutches." Cough cough. Tang Jing coughed awkwardly. Was he such a playboy? He rubbed his nose resentfully and didn't continue the conversation. "With your ability, there's no need for you to go to school at all. Your business is so big you can definitely do something. Haven't you seen how many founders of famous companies in the world are dropouts? Isn't that cool?" And said. Her study abroad was over. She didn't want Tang Jing to go back to school. It would be a disaster for her if he stayed with Yi Dingdang every day. Yi Dingdang's almond-shaped eyes widened as she retorted, "Who said that university is useless? You don't know how much his grandfather wants him to go to school." Tang Jing's face stiffened. His heart was sad. He didn't have time to tell his grandfather about his expulsion. Yi Dingdang was right. His grandfather really wanted him to finish university. This had been his wish for many years. If he told his grandfather about his expulsion, his grandfather would take Tang Jing's feelings into consideration and wouldn't say anything. However, he would be very disappointed in his heart. Thinking of this, Tang Jing felt how selfish he was. He only considered his own feelings and ignored his grandfather's wishes. "I haven't seen my grandfather in a long time. I want to go to the island. Moreover, school is about to start, so I need to bring Shirshir and the others back." "You want to go to the island? I'll go with you. I haven't been there before." Yi Dingdang immediately volunteered. "I'll also go." And said, not to be outdone, "None of you can go. I'll go alone and will be back soon. Moreover, it will be in a way that you will never expect." Tang Jing said mysteriously. "What way?" "Let's keep you in suspense first." Humph, deliberately mystifying. Yi Dingdang glared at him. Tang Jing walked straight to the backyard. The others followed him. They wanted to see what he was going to do. Standing in the backyard, Tang Jing looked around. Then he circulated his qi. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Several streams of qi shot out in all directions. In the blink of an eye, several complex patterns appeared on the ground. They flickered a few times and then disappeared. The others stared with wide eyes but couldn't see anything. "Tang Jing, you're setting up an array?" Empyrean Fairy suddenly walked over. Her eyes lit up as she stared at the ground. "You saw through it?" Tang Jing clapped his hands. "Success. What kind of array is this? It seems to have some skill." Empyrean Fairy curiously asked. "You can't recognize this array?" Tang Jing was surprised. "There are thousands of arrays. How can I recognize all of them?" "Then allow me to keep you in suspense. You'll know soon enough." Empyrean Fairy frowned. Seeing that Tang Jing had made up his mind, she didn't ask any more questions. However, her curiosity was completely aroused by Tang Jing. She walked around the backyard a few times but still couldn't see anything. "I'm going to the island to pick someone up. You guys stay at home. I'll be back soon, and I'll be back in an unprecedented way." Tang Jing smiled mysteriously. Yi Dingdang grabbed him and threatened, "You still dare to keep us in suspense? Are you going to tell us or not? What's going on?" Tang Jing raised his neck like a martyr. He said vehemently, "I won't give in to force. I won't tell you." Seeing his comical appearance, Yi Dingdang pinched him hard and said, "You're getting more and more cunning. You're going back to the island? Say hello to the people on the island for me." Wu Junshan, Lan Yu and the others walked over. Many of Wu Junshan's subordinates were still on the island, so they couldn't help but miss them. "Don't worry. It'll be easy for you to see them in the future." "How is that possible?" Lan Yu was in disbelief. The capital was thousands of kilometers away from the island. One had to switch between many different modes of transportation. It was truly troublesome to make a trip back and forth. How could it be easy? Seeing that they didn't believe him, Tang Jing didn't point it out. He waved his hand and strode out of the villa. In the blink of an eye he had left the capital. He then flew toward the island on his sword. Not long after he arrived above the vast sea. The azure sky and the sea water formed a beautiful contrast. It was exceptionally magnificent. Looking down from above, he saw a lush island in the distance. This island was like a pearl in the middle of the vast sea. Whoosh! Tang Jing turned into a streak of light and dove down. Boom! A ray of light shot up from the island and blocked Tang Jing's path, causing him to be sent flying backwards. This is Gui Qiansui's defense. Tang Jing secretly praised. Who dares to trespass into my territory? Gui Qiansui's voice rang out. In the vast sea, it was clearly transmitted to Tang Jing's ears. Gui Qiansui, it's me. Tang Jing didn't want to have more conflicts and directly revealed his identity. Upper Immortal, it's you? Gui Qiansui cried out in surprise. The light dissipated. Tang Jing landed on the island steadily. The witch tribe elder and the others came up to greet him. The big movement just now had completely alarmed the people on the island. Lord Messenger, why are you here? The witch tribe elder led the witch tribe people to bow their heads. Tang Jing quickly held him and said, Elder is too polite. Everyone get up. I haven't seen you for a long time. I'm here to visit you. The elder was extremely moved. Thank you for your concern. Tang Jing. A pleasantly surprised voice came from behind, causing Tang Jing to turn around abruptly, only to find Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei looking at him affectionately. Brother. Another petite figure came out from between the two. Like a lively little elf, she directly threw herself into Tang Jing's arms and hooked her arms around his neck. She stared at him with wide eyes. Tang Jing laughed and hugged Nana. Nana, you've grown taller and heavier. This little girl was becoming more and more delicate, just like a little princess from a fairy tale. Her big black eyes turned as she pouted and said, Big brother, are you saying that Nanan got fat? How could it be? Then you said I've become heavier. Because you've grown taller, that's why you've become heavier. Nana suddenly understood and smiled. That's good. Nana doesn't want to become fat. Nana needs to be thin. Only then will she be beautiful. What does a little girl like you know about beauty? Tang Jing couldn't help but laugh and pinched her pink cheeks. Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei looked at Tang Jing in a daze. Seeing that his embrace was completely occupied by Nana, they couldn't snatch his embrace from a little girl. They could only helplessly look at the two of them with a smile. All right, come down. Tang Jing put down Nana. The little girl was reluctant to part with him and pouted. Tang Jing stretched out his arms and tightly hugged Fang Shishir. Fang Shishir closed her eyes sweetly and snuggled against his broad chest, a sweet smile appearing on her lips. I've come to pick you guys up, Tang Jing said softly. Fang Shishir leaned her head on his shoulder and whispered, I missed you. After saying this, she wrapped her arms around his waist. I missed you too. Tang Jing hugged her tightly as if he wanted to rub her into his body. Seeing that everyone was looking at her, Fang Shishir was both happy and shy. She whispered, Everyone's looking. Tang Jing didn't care and said, Let them look. Lu Qingmei's eyes were fiery as she looked at this scene with envy. If only she was in that embrace. But because of her identity, she couldn't openly lie in that warm embrace. Thinking of this, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. Tang Jing raised his head and happened to see Lu Qingmei. His heart moved and he let go of Fang Shishir. He strode in front of Lu Qingmei and hugged her in his arms. Lu Qingmei's body stiffened and her heart suddenly tightened as if it was about to stop beating. Her cheeks were red like fire. She didn't expect that Tang Jing would dare to do such a thing in front of everyone. She was at a loss for a moment. Sister Mei, I missed you too. Tang Jing whispered in her ear. Chapter 998. Tang Jing calmly separated and hugged the elder. He even hugged the witch clan warrior beside him, as if he was hugging a group of old friends, and perfunctorily passed by. Fang Shishir was immersed in her own emotions, and did not notice the unusual and subtle relationship between the two of them. Little Zheng, you're here. An old voice sounded, and a figure with vigorous steps walked over from afar. Tang Jing's expression changed slightly, he became excited and quickly welcomed the person, cheering, Grandfather. Tang Dehai's mental state was much better than before, he was in high spirits, and even the wrinkles on his face were fewer. He laughed heartily at Tang Jing. Tang Jing hugged him and said excitedly, Grandfather, I've come to see you. Little Jing misses you so much. The reveal of his true feelings was moving. Tang Dehai patted Tang Jing's back in relief and said, You've matured a lot, and your body has become stronger. Tang Jing giggled a few times and asked, Grandfather, how is your body? Are you used to living on the island? Tang Dahai forced a smile and said, "What's there to be unaccustomed to? The air is good, there's no need to inhale smog, the scenery is charming and everyone takes good care of me just like at home." Even though he said that, Tang Zheng could clearly see a trace of melancholy between his brows. His heart moved and he understood that his grandfather's words were not sincere. With his personality he would definitely not be used to living in this kind of place. Moreover, he did not even have a familiar friend, so he could not help but feel lonely. "Grandfather, this time I'm here to bring you back to live," Tang Jing said impatiently as his heart ached. "Bring me back." Tang Dahai was shocked, then overjoyed, but his expression quickly darkened and he said worriedly, "I heard that the environment in the country is very dangerous. When I go back, will I cause you trouble? I think it's better if I stay here. Having someone take care of me every day is already a blessing. I never dared to imagine such a life in the past." "Grandfather, don't worry. With me here no one can hurt you." Tang Jing patted his chest and promised. "Really?" Tang Dahai was skeptical. Tang Jing laughed. "Grandpa, I'm here to pick you up. Don't worry." Tang Dahai breathed a sigh of relief and smiled as if relieved of a heavy burden. "If that's the case, it's good to go back." Many buildings had already been built on the island, making it look like a holiday resort. Under the guidance of the elder, Tang Zheng gradually experienced the atmosphere of the island. The elder acted as a narrator, and the grass and objects gradually became lively under his introduction. "Elder, it's been hard on all of you. You've built such a big home from scratch." The elder laughed. "Lord Envoy, we are not at all tired. It is a wonderful thing for the witch clan to build their own home. If not for Lord Envoy, we would not have had this opportunity." After a pause, the elder continued, "Lord Envoy, according to your instructions, we have already established a holy land." "Really?" Tang Zheng was shocked. This was just something he casually mentioned when he gave the spar to the elder. He did not think that he would actually start to establish it. He was truly a man of action. "We did it according to our own ideas. As for the specific improvements, we will make them after Lord Envoy points them out." The elder said modestly. "Let's go take a look at the sacred ground first." Tang Zheng was in high spirits, and the group of people walked towards the depths of the island. The other witch clan members automatically retreated, and did not continue to follow. There are no rules, the sacred ground is of utmost importance. Outsiders are not allowed to enter, and the witch clan is not allowed to enter anytime and anywhere. This can guarantee the sacred place of the sacred ground in everyone's hearts. The elder clearly saw through Tang Zheng's doubts and explained. Tang Zheng nodded in understanding. "As for Lord Envoy's relatives and friends, they are not within this range. They can enter the sacred ground at any time. During this period of time, they have absorbed the energy of the spar and cultivated diligently." Just now, Tang Zheng had discovered the changes in their cultivations, and the one who rose the fastest was actually Nana. As expected of a famous teacher, with the guidance of the Empyrean fairy, Nana's cultivation was like a rocket, and with a whoosh she actually jumped to the first stage of the fasting stage. This speed was not inferior to that of Tang Jing back then. His current cultivation was almost catching up to that of Yi Dingdang, Fang Shishir and Lu Qingmei. The two of them had cultivated for a long time longer than Nana, but their speed was far inferior to that of Nana. No wonder the Empyrean fairy insisted on accepting Nana as his disciple. Her talent was incomparable, and in time Tang Zheng was completely unable to predict how much her cultivation would increase to. Of course, although Nana's cultivation was high, she was still a child after all. Her mind was not mature and her fighting strength was greatly reduced. She could not even compare to an ordinary cultivator in the foundation establishment stage. Tang Jing did not want to rush the seedlings to help them grow, so he did not have high expectations for Nana. Her development had already exceeded his expectations, which made him very gratified. As for Fang Shishir, her cultivation had also advanced by leaps and bounds, and she had already reached the 5th level of fasting. It could be seen that she had worked very hard during this period of time. Lu Qingmei was slightly inferior, but she also had the cultivation of the 2nd level of fasting. The weakest was Tang Dahai. He was already old and cultivation was more for him to strengthen his body. That was why he was only at the 4th level of the foundation establishment stage. Actually, we have to thank the elder for his guidance. If not for the elder's careful guidance, our cultivation would not have advanced by leaps and bounds. Hearing the elder's praise, Fang Shishir said with a smile that was like a flower. "No, I'm just giving you some superficial insights. It's mainly because you have high aptitudes and are hardworking in your cultivation." The elder waved his hand, not daring to claim credit. Stop flattering each other. In short, everyone is very powerful. Tang Jing concluded. Lord Envoy, actually, everyone should thank you the most. Because you provided the spar and everyone absorbed the energy of the spar, their cultivation was able to increase by leaps and bounds. The elder said sincerely. How are the spar now? Tang Jing's heart moved and he asked curiously. The elder pointed forward and said, We have arrived at the sacred land. Lord Envoy will know when you see it. Looking up, the scene in front of him changed drastically. The tropical plants became more and more lush, and the lotus leaves were infinitely green. The densely packed branches formed a dome above his head, completely covering the space in front of him, as if there was another world inside. A huge stone tablet stood in front of the dome with the word, Sacred Land, written on it. There were many complicated patterns on the stone tablet that flickered with a mysterious light. The elder channeled his energy into the stone tablet, causing it to flicker with light. The dome let out a rustling sound, and the branches came to life, quickly retreating backwards. In the end, a door and a path were revealed. Lord Envoy, please enter. Tang Jing raised his foot and walked in. There was actually a different world inside the dome. It was a huge space. The spar was placed in the middle, and there were many people sitting around it. Their palms were placed on the spar, and they were continuously absorbing the energy to cultivate. The spar became transparent, and the strange creature inside could be clearly seen. Everyone was already used to it, so they did not take it seriously. When Tang Jing saw the spar again, he subconsciously thought of the spar that the Azure Dragon Palace worshipped and sealed himself. Shenin and this unknown creature must have come from the sky beyond heaven, but Shenin could break the seal on his own, and this unknown creature could not. The spar was slightly smaller than before, so for the time being, this unknown creature did not have the chance to be born. Has there been any abnormality in the spar during this period of time? Tang Jing asked. The elder pondered for a moment, then shook his head and said, According to our observation, there is nothing unusual. Tang Jing muttered to himself and nodded. Looking at the witch clan members who were immersed in cultivation, he said in a low voice, Everyone be quiet. Don't disturb their cultivation. I'll just take a look around. After walking around the spar, Tang Jing found that everyone was focused on cultivating. Energy continuously flowed from the spar into their palms, and their cultivation speed was indeed much faster than that of ordinary people. The elder introduced in a low voice, The energy of the spar is too strong. After everyone absorbs a certain amount of energy, they have to spend a period of time refining it. Otherwise, it would be harmful to their cultivation. Tang Jing's cultivation was strong, so he refined the energy very quickly. He did not have this problem. So, everyone takes turns to come to the sacred ground to cultivate. Elder, your arrangements are very thoughtful. With you doing all this, I can rest assured. Lord Envoy, you flatter me. After wandering around for a while, the few of them left the sacred ground. The dome returned to its original state, blocking everyone's line of sight. Ever since we obtained the spar, our clansman's cultivation has risen to a new level. The entire witch clan is grateful to Lord Envoy. The elder bowed slightly and said gratefully, Elder, if you say such polite words again, I will get angry. Tang Jing deliberately kept a straight face. This old man misspoke. Please don't blame me, Lord Envoy. Sigh, if the clansmen who returned to the country had the chance to absorb energy, then our witch clan would be even more powerful. The elder could not help but sigh with regret. Tang Jing laughed. Elder's words are very right. We must treat everyone equally. The young elites of the clan must go to the secular world to gain experience, and the clansmen outside must also find time to come back and concentrate on cultivating. Cultivation is the foundation of cultivators. But this round trip is a long journey. Moreover, they don't have the ability to fly on their swords yet, Lord Envoy. It's too troublesome. Tang Jing said mysteriously, This time I specially came here to solve this problem so as to avoid your worries. I will establish a passage between the island and the capital, and then you will be able to come and go without obstruction. Is there such a way? The elder was overjoyed. Of course, the transmission array can do this. Let's find a suitable location first. I'll set up the array. Tang Jing did not delay and immediately found a suitable location nearby. Following the same method, the genuine chief flew out and set up a transmission array on the ground in the blink of an eye. The elder watched all of this without blinking. He shook his head and did not recognize the array. He could not help but mutter to himself, Lord Envoy is truly powerful. He actually knows such a mysterious array. My worries are completely unnecessary. Tang Jing clapped his hands and called out, "Done. Let's wrap up." It's done just like that. No one could tell what was going on and could not help but be puzzled. Chapter 999. A grand bonfire party welcomed Tang Jing's arrival. The witch tribesmen sang and danced, and under the light of the fire, the witch tribesmen's faces were brimming with brilliant smiles. Tang Jing sat at the top, smiling as he looked at the laughing clansmen. Many clansmen came to toast Tang Jing and he did not reject them. "Little Zheng, how was the final exam last semester?" Tang Dahai looked at him kindly and asked. Tang Jing was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to answer because he did not take the final exam at all. "What's wrong?" "Nothing." Tang Jing was weak, he did not dare to look at the old man. Tang Dahai understood Tang Jing very well. Seeing his reaction, he immediately understood that there was definitely a problem. He asked worriedly, "Little Zheng, did something happen?" Tang Jing opened his mouth, but in the end, he did not say the word, "no." Since his grandfather had smelled it, he really could not say anything to lie. He took a deep breath and said, "Grandfather, I'm not in school anymore." "Not in school?" Tang Dahai was so shocked that the cup in his hand fell on the table, and his expression changed greatly. "How did you not go to school?" "Grandfather, don't be impatient. It's just a small accident." Seeing the old man's big reaction, Tang Jing was shocked and hurriedly comforted him. Tang Dahai's face turned pale. He had always been proud of Tang Jing for being admitted to a good university. Although his development later exceeded his expectations, Tang Dahai still hoped that Tang Jing could study hard. He himself was not very cultured, so perhaps he had placed more of his hopes on Tang Jing. Now that he heard this bad news, his entire body was in a bad state, as if someone had poured a basin of ice water on him. Suddenly Tang Dahai let out a long sigh. He was full of persuasion, but he did not say it out loud. He said dejectedly, "Little Zheng, I know you have grown up and have your own ideas on many things. Many of my opinions are not suitable, but if you have already made up your mind, then I will support you." Tang Jing's nose turned sour, and he had already made a decision in his heart. He resolutely said, "Grandfather, I haven't finished speaking yet. The school matter has been resolved and school is about to start. I will continue to go back to school." "Really?" Tang Dahai's worry turned into joy, and his face glowed again. Tang Jing nodded firmly. "Of course. People have to learn when they're alive. I can't fall behind. This is what my grandfather taught me since I was young. I've always remembered it." Tang Dahai was comforted and laughed heartily. "You're really my good grandson." Fang Shishir took a deep look at Tang Jing. This decision was within her expectations, because she understood the relationship between this pair of grandfather and grandson. Tang Jing would do anything for his grandfather. Whether Gu Guan truly wanted to return to school or to fulfill his grandfather's wishes, he would make this choice. Filial piety was the most important virtue of all. Fang Shishir was also a traditional girl at heart. She admired Tang Jing for this very much. She couldn't help but smile. That night Tang Jing drank a lot. In the end he didn't use his martial arts to dissolve the alcohol, so he was drunk. In a daze, a soft body slipped into his arms. At first she was Fang Shishir, then Yi Dingdang, then Lu Qingmei Wu Mu Hongyan. Each and every woman's charming face changed in front of his eyes, causing him to be intoxicated. The salty sea breeze blew in. Tang Jing felt a trace of coolness. He opened his eyes in a daze and found that there was another person in his arms. Fang Shishir's lazy appearance was very charming. Fang Shishir felt his gaze and shyly opened her eyes. She smiled sweetly and leaned into his arms. She whispered, "Last night you were drunk. I helped you back and then you did something bad. Look, this is the evidence." Following Fang Shishir's finger, Tang Jing saw that the room was in a mess, with clothes scattered everywhere. Fang Shishir lightly punched his chest a few times and said, "Last night you were like a wild beast. Look at the marks you left on my body." As he said this, he stretched out his arm. Sure enough, there were a few marks. Tang Jing gently stroked her arm and said with a pained expression, "I was drunk last night. I'm sorry I hurt you." "Hee, but you're also very manly when you're drunk." Fang Shishir shyly lowered her head. "Is that so?" Tang Jing shook his head and asked with an evil smile, "Last night, did you see that I was drunk and then had bad intentions towards me? What bad things did you do to me?" "It was clearly you who did bad things to me. You still have the nerve to blame me." Fang Shishir pretended to be angry. The two of them played for a while and rolled together again. After a long time they got up and washed up. After breakfast, the group of people arrived in front of the transmission array. There were already a lot of people gathered here, and everyone was filled with anticipation towards the Lord Envoy. This is the transmission array. It will open up a passage between our island and the capital, and then we will be able to travel freely. This is extremely important to us. Everyone can concentrate on cultivating on the island, and also go to the bustling city to train. Combining theory and practice, this way our strength will not be a castle in the air, but a solid foundation. After Tang Zheng passionately explained for a while, everyone's emotions were stirred up, and their eyes burned with passion. Tang Zheng took a deep breath. This was the first time he had set up a transmission array, and this transmission array was different from the one in the Ghost Realm. This was because the transmission array in the Ghost Realm was very large, and could teleport many people and resources, but the one he had set up was a miniature version, and could teleport people and resources at once. This way there wouldn't be a huge commotion. After all, the other side was the capital. If there was too much commotion and it attracted the attention of others, then the gains would not make up for the losses. Tang Zheng circulated his power and pointed his finger into the air. So, his true qi was injected into the array. Immediately, a faint light rose from the ground, but it was not dazzling. Under the illumination of the sun, it seemed almost negligible. Yesterday, Tang Zheng had asked the elders to select a group of Wuxia clan people, and he wanted to bring them back to the capital. This group of people were all extremely excited, and their eyes lit up as they watched this scene fervently. Everyone walked to the center of the array and stand there. Immediately, these people carefully walked to the center of the array. Tang Dahai and Fang Shishir were no exception. They all stood in the center of the array. Tang Zheng turned and said to the elder, "Elder, I have already told you the trick to activating the array. If you have any problems, you can come to the capital to find me through the array." "Yes, Lord Envoy, this old man understands. I wish Lord Envoy a safe journey." Everyone waved goodbye. Tang Zheng walked into the array and his power vibrated, completely activating the teleportation array. With a burst of violent fluctuations, a light flashed and everyone disappeared. In the capital, in the backyard of the villa, the mana fluctuated violently. Empyrean Fairy jumped out of the house with a whoosh and looked at this scene in surprise. Whoosh. In the next second, a group of people appeared out of thin air in the backyard. Yi Ding Dang and the others rushed over and saw this scene. They were all dumbfounded. Everyone suddenly realized that Tang Zheng was mysterious before. It turned out that the array he set up had such a wonderful effect that it could make people appear out of thin air. "What kind of array is this?" Empyrean Fairy asked impatiently. "Teleportation array," Tang Zheng said with a smile. He had already confirmed from Qi Yu and the inner demons that there was no teleportation array in the human world. This meant that it was unique to the Ghost Realm. No wonder even the Empyrean Fairy could not recognize this array. He did not know who invented this array. It was really powerful. People and things thousands of miles away could be teleported in an instant. It was more convenient and faster than any current transportation. If such a teleportation array was set up during a war, the army would directly descend from the sky and pierce the enemy's heart. There would be no need to fight the war. Empyrean Fairy recalled the 3 words teleportation array, and was sure that she had never heard of it. She could not help but be secretly shocked. Could it be that he learned this from the Ghost Realm? Because he was sure that there was no such array in the human world. "Master." Nana's voice interrupted the Empyrean Fairy's thoughts. Nana was like a little swallow that threw herself into the Empyrean Fairy's arms. A smile finally appeared on the Empyrean Fairy's cold face. "Master, Nana missed you so much. Nana has always remembered your teachings and has been working hard to cultivate. You are indeed a good disciple of Master." Empyrean Fairy stroked her delicate face and smiled from the bottom of her heart. Fang Shishir and the others were still thinking about the feeling just now. The feeling of being in a different place in an instant made them feel as if they were still in a dream. It was not real at all. Especially the Wu clan people who were looking around curiously. Tang Zheng called the Wu clan people who were far away to come over. These Wu clan people who came early had long been accustomed to the life in the capital. He asked them to bring their people to settle down. Fortunately, they had already bought a lot of houses nearby, so they had a lot of space to live in. Only Tang Zheng's family was left in the backyard. Wu Junshan and Lan Yu hurriedly came over and supported Tang Dahai. They said with concern, "Old Master, quickly go inside and rest. The sun is shining brightly outside, it's very hot." Tang Dahai looked around and asked blankly, "Is this little Zheng's residence in the capital?" To him, this luxurious villa was still a bit dazzling. Deep down, he was still that simple old man. "Yes, this is your home." "Old master, you're home," Wu Junshan said as he held Tang Dahai's hand. Tang Jing smiled as he looked at the two of them happily. He did not comment on Wu Junshan and Lan Yu's actions, as he had seen everything that this couple had done. Yi Dingdang and Fang Shishir reunited after a long time, holding hands and whispering to each other. It was unknown what they were talking about, but from time to time, they would glance at Princess and, obviously talking about the little secrets between women. The family was reunited and everyone was happily gathered together. That night was the most lively night in the villa. Although Tang Dahai was happy, he was secretly worried. Looking at the girls who were more beautiful than flowers, although he was old, he was not stupid. He guessed that they must have some sort of relationship with Tang Jing. His grandson was so lucky to be with so many fairy-like girls. He had to remind him not to be like the modern Chin Shimmy. Chapter 1000. On the vast and boundless sea, Tang Jing and his group boarded a small fishing boat and sailed into the sea. They had already become familiar with each other. Wang Guanchuan had told his colleagues not to neglect Tang Jing. Although they were puzzled, they did not dare to disobey. On the way, Lu Qingmei was undoubtedly the focus of attention. Many topics revolved around her. Lu Qingmei was after all someone who had been in the workplace for a long time, so she was able to handle it well. She enjoyed this kind of time with Tang Jing and was completely immersed in happiness. The fishing boat floated and sank, riding the wind and waves. Wang Guanchuan asked with concern, "The wind and waves outside are big. If you get seasick, you can go directly to the cabin to rest." Tang Jing smiled and said it was fine. Lu Qingmei was in high spirits. She stood at the bow and looked at the rolling waves. She stretched out her arms as if she was hugging the sea. She was enjoying it very much and did not look seasick at all. Wang Guanchuan still remembered the first time he took a boat out to sea. He vomited so much that his soul almost left him. But these two people's reactions were too strange. He couldn't help but ask curiously, "Do you go out to sea often?" "No." "Then why don't you have any reaction?" Wang Guanchuan's expression was strange. The others also looked at them like they were looking at aliens. The main reason was that this fishing boat was too small. It was far from being as stable as a luxury cruise ship. Tang Jing laughed out loud. How could such a small wave cause a cultivator to have a reaction? He casually said, "Maybe it has something to do with people's physical fitness. Our bodies are very good." Everyone thought that their bodies were not bad either, but they were not as free and easy as you. The small fishing boat rode the wind and waves and gradually sailed into the deep sea. Looking at the sea, people couldn't help but feel a sense of insignificance. In the distance they saw a huge yacht. The white yacht was bathed in the sun and had a beautiful luster. It made people deeply attracted by its charming figure. Wang Guanchuan introduced, "I talked to the boss on the phone. The boss is already on the yacht. He specially came to see you." Tang Jing said calmly, "Isn't your boss overseas?" "He cancelled everything at the last minute and rushed here just to see you," Wang Guanchuan said in a deep voice as if he was trying to show how much his boss valued Tang Jing. Tang Jing chuckled. "Thank you for your boss's concern. I'll thank him in person later for agreeing to come with me." The small fishing boat approached the yacht, and they went up the stairs to the deck of the yacht. Immediately, the aura of a rich man hit him in the face. The difference between a high-end yacht and a small cargo ship was simply too big. Several people were standing on the deck to welcome them. When they saw Tang Jing and Lu Qingmei get on the yacht, they came to greet them. The person at the front laughed heartily and extended his hands from a distance. With a few strides, he arrived in front of Tang Jing and firmly grasped his hand. He excitedly said, "Welcome to my ship, young Master Tang. You bring light to my humble dwelling today." Hearing his praise, Tang Jing smiled modestly and said, "Mr. Du, you flatter me. I'm also very happy to meet you." Du Qifeng waved his big hand and said sonorously, "I'm not flattering you. I'm just telling the truth. I've admired young Master Tang for a long time. It's really a blessing of 3 lifetimes to meet you in person this time." Du Qifeng was also a successful person, but in front of Tang Jing, his attitude was extremely low, because he knew that Tang Jing had a huge amount of power. As the saying goes, the ignorant are not afraid. It was precisely because Du Qifeng knew the inside story that he was more in awe of Tang Jing. When the others saw their boss's behavior, they were shocked. They couldn't help but stare at Tang Jing for a long time, trying to see if there was anything different about him. However, except for his calm and composed manner, there was not much difference in other aspects. "Sorry to bother you this time, Mr. Du," Tang Jing smiled faintly and didn't comment on his compliment. Suddenly, his eyes turned and fell on a person behind Du Qifeng. His pupils suddenly shrank. "It's you?" His sharp eyes fell on the other party like a knife. The other party felt as if there was a giant sword hanging over his head, which could chop down at any time. Danger lurked everywhere. He was shocked. It seemed that compared with the rumors, Tang Zheng was even better. Compared with the beginning, it was really a difference between heaven and earth. Du Qifeng turned his head and happened to see his bodyguard. Speaking of this bodyguard, he was a very capable person. He had once pulled Du Qifeng back from the gates of hell, so Du Qifeng valued him very much. "Young Master Tang, do you know each other?" Du Qifeng asked curiously. "Of course, I know the famous cold-faced killer Xiao Xiaoling. How can I not know him?" The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth hooked up. He really didn't expect to meet him here. He almost forgot this person. At the beginning, on the train to Dianan, he met Xiao Xiaoling. Because of Li Xiaoyan's instigation, he was almost killed by Xiao Xiaoling. Later, Long Tingyu sent Xiao Xiaoling to assassinate Mu Hongyan and her daughter. He was defeated by Tang Zheng. After Mu Hongyan pleaded for mercy, he let Xiao Xiaoling go back to pass the message. Xiao Xiaoling once said that he would definitely challenge Tang Zheng again to correct his master's name. But since then, Xiao Xiaoling seemed to have evaporated from the world. There was no news and he never appeared. Tang Zheng's realm was getting higher and higher. He almost forgot about this person. Now that he saw him again, he was naturally very surprised. "Oh, I didn't expect young Master Tang to be so knowledgeable. You even know the origin of my bodyguard." Du Qifeng was stunned. Of course, he investigated his bodyguard very clearly and knew what he had done. It was precisely because of his experience that Du Qifeng looked at him differently. Because he was an assassin, he could more effectively prevent the assassination of other assassins. It was the safest to let him be a bodyguard. Xiao Xiaoling's expression was very complicated. After he was let go by Tang Zheng, he was obsessed with swordsmanship. He hoped that he could come up with a way to crack Tang Zheng and correct his master's name. But later there were more and more rumors about Tang Zheng, which almost made his confidence collapse. He gradually understood that he was far surpassed by Tang Zheng. It was impossible for him to beat him. Disheartened, he directly left the assassin industry. He happened to meet Du Qifeng, so he turned into a bodyguard. He never thought that it was the will of heaven that made him meet his nemesis. His eyes flickered and he didn't dare to look at Tang Zheng's eyes. But in the end he still raised his head. His eyes flashed and stared at Tang Zheng. For a moment the atmosphere was a little strange. Du Qifeng was also a smart person. He immediately noticed the clues. He looked left and right and asked, "Young Master Tang, is there any secret in this?" Before Tang Zheng could answer, Xiao Xiaoling had already stepped in front of Du Qifeng. He faced Tang Zheng and said coldly, "Tang Zheng, I want to challenge you." "Challenge?" Everyone was shocked. Other employees didn't know the details of Tang Zheng, but they heard a lot of rumors about the boss's mysterious bodyguard. It was said that several assassins came to assassinate the boss, but they were all killed by this bodyguard one by one. He was extremely powerful. He took the initiative to challenge Tang Zheng. Wasn't this bullying the weak? It was simply murder. Wang Guanchuan also had the same idea. When he thought that Tang Zheng was his junior brother, if something happened to him, how could he explain it to his teacher? He quickly stood up to dissuade him. "Boss, how can this be? My junior brother is just an ordinary college student. How can he be Xiao Xiaoling's opponent? Isn't this sending him to his death?" Du Qifeng was puzzled and his eyebrows were twisted. He was not as naive as the employees. When he saw the reaction of Tang Zheng and Xiao Xiaoling, he knew that the two must have a conflict. He originally wanted to climb the line of Tang Zheng, but now it seemed that it was the opposite of what he wanted. He was annoyed. If he didn't bring Xiao Xiaoling this time, wouldn't he not encounter such an embarrassing thing? He was in a dilemma and couldn't decide for a while. Tang Zheng was calm. If it was before, he would face Xiao Xiaoling as if he was facing a great enemy, but now he couldn't make any waves. "Challenge? Aha, do you really have this confidence? Have you really practiced your swordsmanship to this level?" Tang Zheng asked with a smile. Xiao Xiaoling didn't have much confidence, but he didn't back down. He said, "A real man has to do something. Sometimes, knowing that there is a tiger in the mountain, he goes to the tiger mountain. Some things have to be done." "Haha, you have a little more courage and spirit than before." Tang Zheng joked with a smile. "One person is responsible for one's actions. This is the grudge between us. Please don't involve Mr. Du, he is my benefactor. You can't hurt him because of me." Xiao Xiaoling was afraid of venting his anger on Du Qifeng, so he said in advance, "Xiao Xiaoling, you." Du Qifeng's heart moved. For a moment he didn't know what to say. He didn't expect him to be so righteous. Xiao Xiaoling cupped his hands to Du Qifeng and said, "Mr. Du, I can only repay your kindness in my next life." Du Qifeng's mind was full of thoughts. He said, "Don't say that. You still have a good time. Why do you do stupid things?" Du Qifeng had heard too many rumors about Tang Zheng. Those brilliant achievements were like medals of victory hanging on his chest, which made it impossible for people to turn a blind eye to them. There are some things that must be done even if they die, Xiao Xiaoling said resolutely. The others were infected by his momentum. Their hearts couldn't help but be suspended. They looked at the two people nervously. This change surprised them. They all guessed that the next scene would be a bloody scene. "Xiao Xiaoling, you can't bully people like this. Tang Zheng is my junior brother. He is an ordinary student. What hatred do you have with him? What resentment do you have to be so ruthless that you have to take his life?" Wang Guanchuan blushed and asked angrily. Xiao Xiaoling didn't look at him at all. He just stared straight at Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng patted Wang Guanchuan on the shoulder and comforted him. "Brother Wang, don't worry about me." Wang Guanchuan was burning with anxiety. He was like an ant on a hot pan. He said, "Junior brother, it's all my fault. I brought you here. How can I explain it in front of my master in the future?" Looking at his anxious appearance, Tang Zheng couldn't help laughing. Although they hadn't known each other for a long time, his good impression of this senior brother had greatly increased. He gently pulled him without any explanation. He found that his body had been pulled behind Tang Zheng. Chapter 1001. The others were infected by this somber atmosphere. They were silent and their breathing slowed down involuntarily. They clenched their hands and looked at the two nervously. The layman watched the excitement and the expert watched the door. In the eyes of the layman, Tang Zheng stood steadily, indifferent, like a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. Xiao Xiaoling's murderous aura was awe-inspiring, like an unsheathed sword, showing its sharpness. Whoosh! A soft sword flew out from Xiao Xiaoling's waist, like a spirit snake, winding forward, and instantly arrived in front of Tang Zheng. The sword chi was like a viper spitting out a hissing sound, stabbing towards Tang Zheng's heart. Xiao Xiaoling was an assassin and he went straight to the vital point. This was his habit and reaction developed from years of training. The others' breathing stopped at this moment. They were all frightened by this sword as if it was coming for them. The next second their hearts would be pierced by this sword. The tip of the sword went straight to Tang Zheng's heart. He finally moved. He shot like lightning. His body did not move at all, like a towering mountain, immovable. But his hand was so fast that almost no one could see the trajectory. Xiao Xiaoling's pupils suddenly shrank, and his heart seemed to burst out of his throat. But he still did not turn back and tried his best to win. "Ah!" Suddenly there was an explosion of exclamation. The others' eyelids suddenly jumped. They only saw that the sword in Xiao Xiaoling's hand was gone. Instead, Tang Zheng held a sword in his hand, shining with cold light, and aimed at Xiao Xiaoling. Xiao Xiaoling seemed to have been immobilized. He suddenly stopped in front of Tang Zheng and stared blankly at his empty hands. Defeated. A crushing defeat. Just one move he was defeated. He originally thought that he could still hold on to a few moves, but he didn't expect to be defeated in a mess. He couldn't help but become at a loss. What he had done before was useless. Why could Tang Zheng be so powerful? It was a joke to want to give Master a proper name. At this moment, all his pride was defeated and scattered into the dust. He was dejected and his proud head drooped down. The others' reactions were even more wonderful. Their jaws almost fell to the ground. What happened just now? Why did it end as soon as it began? The most important thing was that it ended so strangely. Shouldn't it be a scene of blood splattering everywhere? Everything was quiet as if it was a dream, so unreal. Even Du Qifeng, who had long heard of Tang Zheng's great reputation, felt his heart tighten. He really didn't expect that everything would turn out like this. The bodyguards he relied on all the time were so weak. For a moment he stood there in a daze, not knowing what to do. Only Lu Qingmei was not surprised at all. A beautiful arc appeared at the corner of her mouth. This was her man. As expected, he was as dazzling as the stars. The other enemies could not cause any waves in front of him. Shwa! The sword light flashed and the tip of the sword pressed against Xiao Zhao's chest. Xiao Zhao's whole body was stiff, but he did not retreat, because he knew that he had been completely locked by Tang Zheng. It was impossible for him to escape. "Kill me. I have no face to see my master after being defeated by you." Xiao Xiao coldly straightened his neck and said without fear, "Seeking death? Naturally I will fulfill your wish." Tang Zheng said without batting an eyelid, but his words caused everyone's heartstrings to tremble. The other people's gazes towards Tang Jing underwent an earth-shattering change. It turned out that he was not a little sheep without the strength to truss up a chicken. No wonder the boss valued him so much. Wang Guanchuan's brain almost lost its ability to think. Wasn't he his junior brother? How could he be so powerful? Suddenly he remembered Professor Qi's intriguing words and smile. His heart moved. Could it be that this was the real strength of Tang Jing? His weak strength was just an illusion? At this point he subconsciously looked at Tang Jing and felt that he could not see through this junior brother. But before you die, let's make it clear who your master is. If you don't even dare to report your master, it can only mean that your master is too weak and not worth mentioning. Tang Jing deliberately provoked him. Xiao Zhao's swordsmanship was extraordinary. It was definitely taught by a famous teacher. Nonsense. My master is a dignified grandmaster. How dare you slander him? Xiao Zhao flew into a rage. You listen to me. My master is a great master of swordsmanship, the god of swords. God of swords? Tang Jing was shocked and looked at Xiao Zhao inconceivably. Although he guessed that Xiao Zhao's master was a great master of swordsmanship, he could not guess that he was the god of swords. The god of swords died because of him. No wonder Xiao Zhao was so angry and wanted to fight with him. So, you are a disciple of the Sword Pavilion. Legend has it that the god of swords only has 3 disciples. Are you the 4th? Tang Jing asked curiously. Xiao Zhao's face turned red, showing shame. He said, I did not abide by the rules of the Sword Pavilion and was expelled from the Sword Pavilion. I have no face to mention my master's name again. Abandoned disciple of the Sword Pavilion? Tang Jing raised the corner of his mouth. Interesting. What rules of the Sword Pavilion did you violate? How could you be expelled from the sect? Why do you ask so clearly? Are you ridiculing me? Xiao Zhao asked. You have already been defeated by me. Do I still need to ridicule you? Xiao Zhao's expression darkened. It was obvious that Tang Jing's words were reasonable. He hesitated for a moment and said, My master is a great master of his generation, the master of the Sword Pavilion, but he was restrained and insulted by the Lord. I advised my master to leave the Lord, and my master expelled me from the sect. When Xiao Zhao saw the Lord reprimanding the god of swords, he was angry and contradicted the Lord. Later, he persuaded the god of swords to leave the Lord, but he never thought that the god of swords was loyal to the Lord. His disciple naturally became a sacrifice and was expelled from the Sword Pavilion. The Sword Pavilion and the Lord are one. Your behavior will naturally violate the taboo. It is normal for you to be expelled from the sect. You are not a fool. Why do you still do it knowing this? Tang Jing asked. In my heart, there is only the Sword Pavilion and my master. As for the Lord, I have never considered it. You want me to work for him? Wishful thinking. Xiao Zhao said resolutely. Tang Jing's eyes lit up. Xiao Zhao was not as confused as the other disciples of the Sword Pavilion. He was dead set on the Azure Dragon Hall and the Lord. This was really unexpected. My master died in your hands. I am incompetent now. I can't avenge my master. If you kill me, I will go to my master to ask for punishment. Although the god of swords is dead, and the Sword Pavilion's lair has been destroyed by me, Song Yu escaped with a group of disciples of the Sword Pavilion. Who is Song Yu? You should know better than me. Do you have the heart to watch these fellow disciples under his leadership step by step to destruction? Tang Jing asked. Xiao Zhao's eyes flashed with a touch of light, and then quickly dimmed. He said, My master is no longer here. Why should I care about the life and death of others? Although he said this, the emotions in his eyes fluctuated greatly. Tang Jing's fiery eyes immediately caught this look. He said, You don't care about the life and death of others, but don't you care about the Sword Pavilion signboard? I'm afraid that the god of swords doesn't want this signboard to be completely covered in dust, and he doesn't want this signboard to fall into the hands of a villain. Xiao Zhao knew a lot about Song Yu. When he was expelled from the Sword Pavilion, Song Yu had not yet entered the Sword Pavilion. However, Xiao Zhao had always been very concerned about the Sword Pavilion. Naturally, he had a way to know that someone had replaced his original position. As for Song Yu, he had investigated a lot and knew his temperament very well. After listening to Tang Jing's words, his mood was not as turbulent as on the surface. Deep worry emerged in the depths of his eyes. The Sword Pavilion was the god of swords' painstaking effort. Did he really have to listen to the manipulation of people like Song Yu? To be honest, Xiao Zhao did not want to see this situation. Do you want me to work for you and be an enemy of Song Yu? Xiao Xiao was very smart and immediately guessed Tang Jing's intentions. Tang Jing smiled and did not hide it. He praised, "You are really smart. You guessed it so quickly." From the incident of Li Xiaotian subduing the Li Palace, Tang Jing was inspired. No matter if it was the Li Palace or the Sword Pavilion, they both possessed powerful energy. If they were to directly destroy these two organizations, it would be too much of a pity. This was the best way to deal with them. Li Xiaotian, relying on her identity as the Holy Maiden of the Li Palace, could subdue most of the disciples of the Li Palace and control the Li Palace. If it was an outsider, even if he had a strong backing, it would be impossible to do this. In the same way, although Xiao Xiao was an abandoned disciple of the Sword Pavilion, after all, he was the personal disciple of the Sword God. His identity was not ordinary, so he was also likely to control the powerful force of the Sword Pavilion. Seeing that Tang Jing did not deny it, Xiao Xiao snorted and said disdainfully, "You are dreaming. You killed my master, but you still want me to obey you. Do you think it is possible? Unless it is the next life. So determined?" Tang Jing chuckled. Xiao Xiao snorted and simply turned his head away. He was too lazy to look at Tang Jing. But his attitude had shown that he would not obey Tang Jing at all. The atmosphere became more and more tense, and the others felt that their breathing was stifling, especially Du Qifeng. His heart was filled with apprehension. This time he had completely offended Tang Jing, so how could he have a chance to climb this line? If Tang Jing did not vent his anger on him, then he would thank the heavens. Du Qifeng took a deep breath and bit his tongue. The sharp pain made his nervous nerves relax for a moment. He suppressed his anxious mood and said cautiously, "Young Master Tang, there's definitely still room for negotiation." Before he finished speaking, Xiao Xiao had already shouted, "Boss, don't say it. This is a personal grudge between me and him. I believe he will not vent his anger on you. Although he and I are enemies, I know his style of doing things very well. He will not vent his anger on the innocent. You know me quite well." Tang Jing laughed involuntarily. "I have always studied my enemies carefully. Of course, I know your style of doing things very well. With your understanding of me, do you think I will kill you?" Tang Jing asked with interest. "Although you are not an evil person who kills innocent people, you have never been merciful to your enemies. How can I have a chance to live?" Xiao Xiao laughed at himself. "Sure enough, it is very accurate." Tang Jing sighed and stabbed with his sword. Puff. Chapter 1002. The picture froze. Xiao Xiaoling was lying in a pool of blood with his eyes closed. The long sword was inserted in his heart. Everyone concluded that he was dead. This was really a picture of blood splashing everywhere, but the one who was killed was Xiao Xiaoling, not the powerless Tang Jing. Most of them were ordinary people who had never seen killing in their lives. At this moment they were almost scared silly, standing in place like wood, at a loss. After all, Du Qifeng was a man who had seen much of the world. Although he was startled, he wasn't dumbfounded. After a moment of absent-mindedness, he came back to his senses and sighed deeply. Alas, why bother? He didn't blame Tang Jing and he didn't dare to blame him. It was no exaggeration to say that the lives of the people on this boat were all in Tang Jing's hands. But Du Qifeng was not worried, because he knew that Tang Jing was not a person who killed innocent people. "Give me a room," Tang Jing calmly said to Du Qifeng. Du Qifeng hurriedly nodded. "Okay, please come with me." Tang Jing lifted Xiao Xiaoling. Blood dripped on the deck, leaving a long blood stain that extended into the cabin. The others stared at all this with their mouths agape, unable to speak for a long time. Watching several people disappear into the yacht, the others were finally able to breathe a sigh of relief. They looked at each other with pale faces. "Brother Wang, what exactly is your junior brother doing?" Someone couldn't help but ask. Wang Guanchuan shook his head. He had already guessed that Tang Jing was extraordinary, but he didn't expect him to kill people. This was too much of an impact on his three views. The yacht was filled with a chilling and frightening atmosphere. Inside the cabin, Du Qifeng was stopped outside the door. Lu Qingmei stood at the door as a bodyguard. No one could get close. Du Qifeng wanted to find some topics to break the silence, but looking at Lu Qingmei's beautiful face, he felt that all words were pale and powerless. He remembered very clearly that Lu Qingmei didn't even blink in the face of that scene. Sure enough, none of the people around young Master Tang are easy to deal with. Even this seemingly weak beauty is not an ordinary person. Du Qifeng was filled with emotions. Although he was usually in high spirits, he also felt a sense of pressure in front of Lu Qingmei. Thus, he said embarrassedly, "Just let me know if you need anything. I'll be right outside." Lu Qingmei nodded solemnly. Du Qifeng turns around and leaves. When Du Qifeng came to the deck, the others gathered around him and started asking questions. Boss, what's going on? Who is that person? How dare he kill people? Yeah, this is murder. What should we do? I saw that he didn't even blink. Will he kill us? Seeing that everyone was still in a state of shock, Du Qifeng reached out his hand and pressed down. The others immediately quieted down and looked at him with burning eyes. Don't worry, everyone. There will be no problem with your personal safety. That's just a personal grudge between young Master Tang and Xiao Xiaoling. Young Master Tang is clear about his grudges and will never involve the innocent. Du Qifeng comforted. But that's murder? Isn't he afraid of leaking the news and then silencing us? Du Qifeng laughed. His eyes narrowed into two slits. He said, if anyone wants to report young Master Tang, go ahead, but I guarantee that he will regret it. I don't dare, I don't dare. Everyone quickly waved their hands in panic. Du Qifeng saw that Wang Guanxuan didn't say a word. He patted him on the shoulder and said, don't let your imagination run wild. Your junior brother is not simple. How can this wind and waves overturn his huge ship? Wang Guanxuan suddenly raised his head, stared at Du Qifeng and asked, Boss, what kind of person is my junior brother? Seeing that he actually asked such a question, Du Qifeng laughed and said, Guanxuan, you don't even know the details of young Master Tang. Alas, what can I do for you? You have a treasure mountain but you don't know it. Do you know how many people want to climb the line of young Master Tang but can't do it? This is your opportunity. Don't miss it. What kind of person is my junior brother? Wang Guanxuan persistently asked. Du Qifeng thought for a while and said in a deep voice, his glorious deeds can't be explained in a few words, but you just need to remember that he's someone we can't afford to offend. Someone once made an enemy of him, but in the end they disappeared and turned into the dust of history. The Chu family and the Song family in the capital are one of them. The Chu family and the Song family in the capital? These words exploded in everyone's ears like thunder, making them feel dizzy and disoriented. There were huge waves in their hearts. Although these two families were too far away for ordinary people, there were many rumors on the streets. They had heard a few words and knew how powerful these two families were. Some time ago, the news of the two families' sudden destruction had become the topic of conversation during their leisure time, but they didn't expect that the person who caused this change was standing in front of them. This matter was far more shocking to them than just killing someone, because to do this was 1,000,000 times more difficult than killing a person. Everyone looked at each other and couldn't speak for a long time because they really couldn't find words to describe their mood. Du Qifeng was not surprised by their reaction. He warned them, now you understand my good intentions, right? So keep your mouth shut. This is the only way to protect yourself. Otherwise, don't blame me for not warning you if you get into trouble in the future. Everyone was like a chicken pecking at food. They kept nodding and said in horror, understood boss, don't worry, we will never say half a word. What is young Master Tang doing now? Someone glanced at the cabin and asked curiously. Du Qifeng was also very curious. He turned his head and looked at it. He quickly warned, don't inquire about what you shouldn't know. In fact, he was also very curious about what Tang Zheng was doing. What was Tang Zheng doing? After he put Xiao Xiaoling down, he put a few wounds on him to stop the bleeding. Xiao Xiaoling's life was hanging by a thread, and his vitality was almost completely cut off. That sword pierced his heart. If it weren't for his profound skill, he would have died. But in the face of modern medicine, the injury of this sword was still fatal. There was no effective way to save his life. However, Tang Zheng was a person who repeatedly created miracles. When he stabbed that sword, he already had a plan in mind. Therefore, he calmly took out a 9-turn soul return pill, pried open Xiao Xiaoling's mouth and stuffed it in. The 9-turn soul return pill melted in his mouth and turned into a warm current that spread from his throat to his whole body, quickly exerting its medicinal effect. The wound in his heart was healing rapidly. The 9-turn soul return pill made this dying body glow with a strong vitality, just like a withered tree in spring. Ah! A cry of surprise came out of Xiao Xiaoling's mouth. He was like a suffocating person who suddenly breathed a mouthful of air. He suddenly opened his eyes, sat up, greedily took a big breath of air and made a sound in his throat. His eyes were straight, and his scattered sight gradually focused, and he saw everything in front of him again. Just now, he had always thought that he was going to die, and even felt that he had seen the legendary underworld. In this life as an assassin, he didn't know how many people had died in his hands. This time he died in the hands of Tang Zheng. He didn't have much resentment. This was his destiny. He had already understood this. In fact, it was good to die. He could go to see his master and his fellow disciples. With them he could find a real home. But somehow, as if there was an invisible big hand suddenly appeared, tightly grasping him. This force was so great that it directly pulled him back from the gates of hell. Xiao Xiaoling saw everything in front of him clearly and found that Tang Zheng was looking at him with a smile. He was shocked and subconsciously stepped back, exclaiming, "What's going on? Am I not dead?" "Then do you think you are dead or alive now?" Tang Zheng shrugged and asked. As an assassin, Xiao Xiaoling certainly knew the means of killing people very well. The sword pierced his heart and there was no possibility of survival. He suddenly bowed his head, and the clothes on his chest were dripping with blood. He quickly tore off his clothes and exposed his chest. Although his chest was covered with blood, there was no trace of a wound. He couldn't believe it. He kept groping around but still couldn't find a wound. As if he had seen a ghost, he shouted, "What's going on? Don't you want to die? I'll help you." Tang Zheng said lightly. "Then why am I not dead now? You've already died once. This new life was given to you by me. You'll listen to me in your next life. This is your next life. As an assassin you should keep your promises. Now it's time to fulfill your promise." This was Tang Zheng's plan. Xiao Xiaoling was a talent, and he was once a disciple of the Sword Pavilion. It was most effective to use him to deal with Song Yu, who was erratic. Although he thought that Song Yu couldn't make any big waves, he didn't intend to take it lightly. There were too many salted fish turning over. Song Yu, this salted fish, may also turn over. Of course, he wouldn't give Song Yu this opportunity. Moreover, if Xiao Xiaoling unified the Sword Pavilion, the strength of the Lord would be weakened again, making him a commander without an army, which would be much easier to deal with. Xiao Xiaoling was stunned. His life was indeed saved by Tang Zheng. Did he really have to surrender to him? Suddenly he was in a dilemma and didn't know what to do. "If you want to break your promise, then I'm wrong about you." "Humph, what cold-faced assassin, it turns out that you are a person who doesn't keep his word. The Sword Pavilion has cultivated such a person. The Sword God's reputation is nothing more than this." Tang Zheng said coldly. "You are not allowed to insult my master." Xiao Xiaoling's temples bulged high, and his eyes stared at Tang Zheng with fire. Tang Zheng was not afraid at all. Xiao Xiaoling's momentum gradually weakened. His heart turned 1,000 times and finally, he powerlessly hung his head. "Tell me your decision." Tang Zheng roared as if his voice was deafening. Chapter 1003. When the voice fell, Xiao Xiaoling's momentum changed greatly. Because at this moment he had let go of the obsession in his heart, and his heart had undergone a tremendous change. Tang Zheng was satisfied and looked at Xiao Xiao with a smile. He had already expected that he would agree. He was such a person. Suddenly Tang Zheng's face changed slightly. He stared straight at Xiao Xiao and found that his momentum was still changing rapidly, becoming more and more fierce, like an unsheathed sword, with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, adding more momentum. "Your cultivation is about to break through." Tang Zheng certainly understood what this situation meant. He didn't expect that the transformation of Xiao Xiaoling's soul would cause an earth-shaking change in his power. Actually, this was not something inconceivable. After all, the change in one's state of mind was closely related to one's cultivation. His transformation this time was equivalent to a new life, throwing away many of the shackles of the past. Xiao Xiao was also surprised. He didn't expect that there would be such a miraculous effect after he unloaded his burden. Ever since he was defeated by Tang Zheng, he had been working hard and cultivating diligently. He had already reached the 9th grade of the Khanate realm, which was already very impressive. Now that he had the opportunity, he was going to break through to the martial scholar realm. This was a crucial step for any martial artist. Greater than or equal to greater than or equal to greater than or equal to greater than or equal to. He gradually calmed his mind and concentrated on circulating his internal energy. He could hear the sound of his internal organs rumbling like a flood, while his bones and tendons emitting crackling sounds. A moment later, this strange sound gradually disappeared, and Xiao Xiaoling had completely transformed. He broke through the shackles of cultivation in one fell swoop and reached the 1st grade of the Supreme Power Realm. Xiao Xiao took a deep breath. He couldn't believe it. He touched it left and looked at it right. The Grandmaster realm that he had been looking forward to came unexpectedly, which was completely different from his imagination. The most important thing was that all this was equivalent to thanks to Tang Zheng. This gave him mixed feelings and a strange feeling. "Congratulations." Tang Zheng beamed. Xiao Xiao took a deep look at him and finally resisted the impulse to speak ill of him. He simply said, "Thank you." Tang Jing struck while the iron was hot. "Since that's the case, you will listen to my orders from now on. I will help you take back the sword pavilion and let you control it. In addition, let me tell you something. The Li Palace is already in my hands." "What?" Xiao Xiao recovered from the surprise and looked at Tang Jing inconceivably. "How is that possible? Nothing is impossible in this world. Even the High Lords have to avoid me. How can these organizations escape from my grasp?" Tang Jing looked as if he had already won. Xiao Zhao's cold face changed and he didn't know how to answer. Tang Jing ignored Xiao Zhao's complicated mood and went straight out of the door, leaving him to digest this change alone. Lu Qingmei hurriedly looked over. When she saw that Xiao Xiao was safe and sound, a strange color flashed across her face. She seemed to be surprised, but then she returned to normal and asked, "How is it?" "He has already submitted to me," Tang Jing said calmly. "Oh." Lu Qingmei's face didn't change at all. In her opinion, it was really amazing that Xiao Xiao came back to life. But after all, Tang Zheng was the creator of miracles, so all this was reasonable. Tang Zheng and Lu Qingmei came to the deck and found that other people were looking at them. Their eyes were very complicated. Du Qifeng hurriedly greeted them. "Young Master Tang Xiao Xiao he? Do you care about him?" Tang Jing asked with a smile. Du Qifeng's heart was cold. He didn't know what this meant. He hesitated for a moment and said truthfully, "To tell you the truth, Xiao Xiao once saved my life, so I really care about him. If he heard what you said, he would be very pleased." Du Qifeng's heart was already dead. How could he hear these words? He smiled bitterly. "Young Master Tang, you flatter me. May I ask what else you want me to do?" Tang Jing was also not polite. He asked straightforwardly, "When are we going to explore the sea?" Du Qifeng said, "There is still some distance to the shipwreck. I estimate that after a night's rest, we will arrive tomorrow. It is in the high seas. No one has jurisdiction over it. So that's how it is. I thought it was in the nearby sea. Young Master Tang, take a night's rest. We will arrive tomorrow. You can also take the opportunity to enjoy the beautiful sea view." Du Qifeng was indifferent. So many things had happened just now, but he could talk and laugh. He was really not an ordinary person. Suddenly, a high-pitched scream interrupted Du Qifeng. "Look at him." Everyone's attention was attracted by this scream. Following his gaze, many people were so frightened that they staggered and almost fell into the sea. "Ghost, there are ghosts!" Someone screamed. The atmosphere suddenly dropped to ice, making people shudder. Xiao Xiao stood at the cabin door and looked at everyone curiously. After listening to the scream, his brows subconsciously wrinkled, and he looked more and more cold and ferocious. Ghost. Finally, someone couldn't bear it. He turned over and jumped off the yacht. With a plop, he fell into the sea and swam away. Du Qifeng and Wang Guanchuan were also really shocked. They looked at Xiao Xiao with pale faces and hurriedly hid behind Tang Zheng. In an instant, other people also followed suit and hid behind Tang Zheng, shivering. Their bodies and minds were filled with fear. Xiao Xiao walked towards the crowd without saying a word. Suddenly, screams rose into the sky. Some people heard the sound of teeth chattering. Some people's legs were soft and they directly collapsed on the deck. "Young Master Tang, you should stop him. You are so powerful. You can definitely stop him." Du Qifeng pleaded with fear. Tang Jing asked with a smile, "Why should I stop him?" "Because he is a ghost." Du Qifeng secretly glanced at Xiao Xiao and quickly retracted. No matter how much experience he usually had, how calm he was in the face of danger, in the face of this supernatural phenomenon, he would still feel fear from the bottom of his heart. Puchi. Lu Qingmei couldn't help laughing. The arc of Tang Zheng's mouth was getting bigger and bigger. Xiao Xiao had already walked in front of several people and asked, "Mr. Du, I am not a ghost." "You are not a ghost. How is it possible? You were clearly dead just now." Du Qifeng was still in shock. Xiao Xiao was speechless and looked at Tang Zheng for help. Tang Zheng turned sideways and let the others face Xiao Xiao. In an instant, several people were scared and fell to the ground, trembling like a sieve. "Mr. Du, look at me." Xiao Xiao grabbed Du Qifeng's hand. Du Qifeng trembled violently as if he had been electrocuted. Suddenly his eyes changed slightly. How could Xiao Xiao's hand be hot? Weren't the ghost's hands cold? Du Qifeng gradually calmed down. He slowly raised his head and looked at Xiao Xiao's eyes. Those eyes were indeed full of vitality. Where was the ghost? He was really not dead. Du Qifeng's mouth opened so wide that he could almost stuff a duck egg in it. He looked at Xiao Xiao incredulously and asked, "Didn't that sword just pierce your heart? And you lost so much blood. Why are you alive and kicking now as if nothing had happened?" Xiao Xiao didn't answer but focused his eyes on Tang Jing. Du Qifeng's heart moved. Was all this young Master Tang's credit? Just now he took Xiao Xiao into the cabin to save him. But after a while he came out. That was a fatal injury. How did he do all this? This was simply the reincarnation of Hua Tuo. Du Qifeng scratched his head, but he couldn't figure out how all of this was done. The gaze he looked at Tang Jing became more and more complicated. He was completely in awe of Tang Jing's unfathomable methods, and his admiration was like a torrential river. Others finally understood that this person was not dead at all. He was not a ghost at all. They were afraid in vain. However, their thoughts were also the same as Du Qifeng's. How did this happen? Well, don't be afraid. He's not dead. He's just injured. Now his injury has healed. He's a living person. Tang Jing saw that the time was almost right, so he finally said aloud to ease everyone's tension. The group of people seemed to have eaten a calming pill as they finally revealed an expression of relief. Since he was not dead, then everything was fine. Originally, some people were worried that Tang Jing would kill them to silence them, but now it seemed that they did not need to worry about that. Looking at his colleague who had swam a long distance, Wang Guanchuan hurriedly shouted, "Come back. It's all right. Everything is just a false alarm." The man turned his head from a distance and saw a group of people looking at him with a smile. Only then did he realize that it was a misunderstanding. He swam back in embarrassment. This farce came to an end for the time being. Tang Jing and Lu Qingmei snuggled up to the bow of the ship and watched the sunset. Many other people looked at them from a distance, but no one dared to disturb them. Du Qifeng took Xiao Xiaoling back to the cabin. Before he had time to speak, Xiao Xiaoling had already said, "Mr. Du, after this time, I'm afraid I can't follow you." Du Qifeng was surprised and said, "Why?" "Because I want to go with Tang Jing." "Ah, go with him? Aren't you life and death enemies?" "That's already a thing of the past. Now it's different," Xiao Xiaoling said bitterly. "What's the difference?" Du Qifeng was ready to break the pot and ask to the end, because it was too difficult to find such a powerful bodyguard like Xiao Xiaoling. He didn't want to let him go unless he had to. "Because Tang Jing will definitely let me go, so I'll remind you in advance." Du Qifeng's face was stiff. This sentence was like a huge stone pressing down on him. No matter how many words he had to persuade him, they were choked in his throat. There was no way to spit them out. "You and him?" Du Qifeng asked hesitantly. "You'd better not inquire about me and him. In a word, thank you for taking care of me during this time." Xiao Xiaoling sighed. Du Qifeng heaved a long sigh and understood that things had come to this point and couldn't be disobeyed. He patted Xiao Xiaoling on the shoulder and said, "Well, young Master Tang is a very powerful person. It's good for you to follow him. We are also acquaintances. I hope you can say more good words in front of young Master Tang in the future." Screams rose and fell one after another, as if they were competing in a high-pitched competition, each scream louder than the last. Wang Guanchuan hurriedly steadied the submarine, but the group was trembling with fear. The last time they had dived, it had been very smooth, but they had never encountered such a strange thing. Could it be a ghost? A lot of people must have died in this sunken ship and turned into vengeful spirits, coming to claim our lives just like in the movies. "You've watched too many horror movies," Wang Guanchuan said snappily. "What exactly is that?" Everyone looked at each other. Just now they were highly nervous and their hearts were filled with fear. How could they have seen clearly what had happened? Lu Qingmei subconsciously held Tang Jing's hand tightly. He patted her shoulder and comforted her. "Don't be afraid. It's not a vengeful spirit. Besides, even if it is something like that, I have a way to deal with it." He was a man who had been to the ghost festival. How could he be afraid of vengeful spirits? He raised his voice and explained, "Everyone, don't panic. It's not a vengeful spirit. It's just a shark." "Shark?" Tang Jing nodded. "Yes, it seems to be a great white shark." How could people who had been in the sea not understand the power of sharks, especially this great white shark? It definitely had a strong attack power. It was even more frightening than the vengeful spirits. Everyone's faces were pale. Even Wang Guanchuan trembled as he said, "How could we be so unlucky? The last time we came down, we didn't encounter any sharks. We need to quickly go back. If we are targeted by a great white shark and we don't have any defensive power, we will definitely die. Hearing his words, Tang Jing speechlessly rolled his eyes. Was he directly ignoring him? He coughed to attract everyone's attention. Then he calmly said, "Actually, sharks really aren't scary. They are easy to deal with." "How is that possible?" "Every year, a lot of people die in the mouth of sharks. Yes, they will be easy to deal with." These people were really scared by the name of the great white shark. That's for others. For Tang Jing, sharks are a piece of cake. Lu Qingmei didn't want to see her beloved be looked down upon, so she argued. "Really?" Everyone seemed to have grasped at a life-saving straw. "I will go out and deal with the sharks. You guys continue to dive. I will come later," Tang Jing said lightly. Seeing that he was so casual, everyone looked at him nervously. Tang Jing had already stood up from his seat. "Be careful." Lu Qingmei affectionately pinched him and reminded him. Tang Jing smiled and nodded. He got out of the submarine and was met with a bloody mouth. 2 rows of white teeth attacked him and bit down on his head. Bang! He casually threw out a punch and his fist directly hit the teeth. With a crack, the teeth broke. The great white shark was in pain. It suddenly turned around and swept its tail at Tang Jing. It was like an iron fan sweeping over, causing a large wave. Bang! With another simple punch, the great white shark's tail turned into a bloody mess. Tang Jing leaped. Although he was in the deep sea, to him, it was as if he was on land. Bang bang bang. Punch after punch, every punch landed on the great white shark's body. Traces of blood seeped out. "Ah!" Tang Jing exclaimed. He was very clear about the power of his fist. It was enough to break through stone, but when he hit the great white shark's body, it did not completely break through the defense of its fish scales. This was not normal. Since when did the great white shark have such a strong defense? The great white shark's eyes stared straight at Tang Jing. It was filled with anger and bloodthirsty killing intent. Its eyes contained too many things. It was like the eyes of a living person. It was poles apart from ordinary animals. Tang Jing could not help but frown. This great white shark was strange and definitely not ordinary. The great white shark was not afraid. Instead, it smelled its own blood and went completely berserk. With a swing of its tail, it crazily bit at Tang Jing. Shwa! The War Soul Sword appeared in Tang Jing's hand. With a slash of the sword, the seawater automatically split into 2. The sword light ruthlessly slashed at the great white shark's head. With a poochie sound, the sword light passed through its body. A large amount of blood surged out. The great white shark was split into 2 halves. In front of the War Soul Sword, all of the great white shark's defenses collapsed. The great white shark's corpse quickly sank to the bottom of the sea. Tang Jing took a deep look and chased after the submarine. His eyes became darker and darker. He could not even see his fingers. He crossed his fingers and snapped his fingers. A ball of true fire emerged from his fingertips. This ball of true fire was not afraid of the seawater. It continued to burn, illuminating the path ahead. A moment later, he finally saw the submarine in the distance. However, he was quickly attracted by a huge silhouette beside it. It was as if a small mountain range was lying at the bottom of the sea. Most of it was covered by sand. This was the battleship. "Hey, I finally saw you. I'm very curious about what's inside." Tang Jing muttered to himself and swooped down. There was no one in the submarine. The others must have entered the battleship. On the surface of the battleship, there were many messy footprints. He lowered his center of gravity and stood on the ship. He took a step forward and chased after it. As expected, there were a few cannons on both sides of the deck. It was just that they had long been corroded by the seawater and were covered in rust. He walked straight into the cabin. The cabin was even darker and gloomier. If an ordinary person were to come here, they would probably walk away. He looked left and right but did not see anyone else. The structure of the battleship was extremely large and complicated. He did not know where they had gone. Tang Jing simply walked and observed his surroundings. He did not know much about battleships, so he could not tell what era it was from. However, there was no doubt that in ancient times, such a battleship was definitely the king of the sea. What kind of strong enemy could make such a battleship sink into the sea? He could not help but think of the treasures that Wang Guanchuan had mentioned. How could there be so many treasures on a battleship? All of these mysteries were like a large net covering him, causing him to be puzzled. Suddenly, a place on the wall of the cabin attracted his attention. He immediately went over to take a closer look. There were actually a few scratches as if they were made by sharp claws. The shipyard was made of steel, so to be able to leave scratches on it showed how powerful the claws were. Tang Jing was shocked and thought that it was strange. These scratches must have been left after the battleship fell silent. Otherwise, how could a battleship tolerate such scratches? However, in the depths of the vast sea, what could leave such scratches on a battleship? This was completely abnormal. Tang Jing scratched his head, puzzled. He took a few more steps forward and saw some more scratches. However, some of the scratches were covered by sand. If he did not pay attention, he would not have noticed them. This meant that these scratches were not made at one time, but over several periods of time. Could there be some kind of monster in the deep sea? However, the claws of ordinary things could not be so sharp. For a moment, Tang Jing could not figure out what was going on. Suddenly, a cry of surprise attracted Tang Jing's attention. This cry was very weak. If not for Tang Jing's extraordinary hearing, he would have ignored it. Oh no, could they be in danger? Chapter 1005. Tang Jing passed through layers of cabins and came to the bottom of the battleship. Suddenly, a black shadow rushed towards him. Tang Jing's heart trembled. He stretched out his hand and grabbed the other party. A scream sounded. Tang Jing's head loosened. It turned out that the black shadow was a person. He finally saw clearly that it was one of his own people. However, he was wearing a diving mask so he couldn't see his face clearly. The other party was clearly terrified. They bared their fangs and brandished their claws. They kept waving their arms and screaming. "Don't panic. What happened?" Tang Jing shouted. It was like the morning bell and evening drum exploding in his ears. The other party was stunned and finally regained his composure. When he saw Tang Jing's appearance clearly, he couldn't hide the surprise in his eyes. He cheered. "Young Master Tang, it's you. Quickly go and save people. We are in danger." "Where?" "Just ahead. There are monsters." The voice came from the diving mask. It sounded a little dull. It made people's hearts fall to the bottom. "You go back to the submarine first," Tang Jing warned, and with a sound like a fish, he drew a white wave in the sea and disappeared in front of them. When he stepped through a cabin door, he finally saw everything in the cabin clearly. There were lights on. Although it was a little blurry, he could still see clearly. This cabin was very large. In the middle there were 10 or so big boxes. Next to the boxes there were piles of white bones. They were human skeletons. A few people were hiding in the corner. Some people were lying on the ground. It was unknown whether they were dead or alive. Only one person was standing in front of the wooden box, looking around vigilantly. In the darkness, there seemed to be a great danger lurking. "Sister Mei." Tang Jing recognized that person at a glance. It was Lu Qingmei. He was relieved. As long as she was fine, he hurriedly went to greet her. Whoosh. Suddenly, a black shadow jumped out from the darkness behind him. Its sharp claws directly scratched his back. "Tang Jing, be careful." Lu Qingmei shouted in fright. Tang Jing's head trembled. He didn't even turn his head as he coldly snorted. "I want to see what kind of monster actually dares to sneak attack me." Without even turning his head, he swung his sword backward. With a whoosh, sword light filled the space behind him, and with a peng, it slashed down on the opponent's claws, creating circles of ripples that spread out in all directions. Those who were close to him fell to the ground one after another, crying out in alarm. The monster scurried away and hid in the darkness again. Lu Qingmei rushed over and asked with concern, "How are you?" Tang Jing shook his head. He looked at her and asked, "What about you? Are you hurt?" Lu Qingmei smiled and said, "I'm not hurt. It's just that the gift you gave me is ruined." She spread out her hands and there were a few pieces of broken jade lying on her palms. These were the jade pieces that Tang Jing had given to a few of his family members for self-protection. She didn't expect that they would come in handy this time and save her life. "It's okay. I'll give you a new gift when we get back." "It's a deal." Lu Qingmei beamed with joy. "How are the others?" "They're not hurt. They're just scared out of their wits," Lu Qingmei said. Tang Jing secretly nodded and breathed a sigh of relief. He looked at the darkness around him and asked, "Do you know what kind of monster it is?" "I don't know. But it's a reptile. It looks like a big dog with a long tail. It's very cunning and very powerful. If you're hit by its claws, you'll definitely suffer a lot," Lu Qingmei said while pointing to the ground. The steel deck was scratched by the sharp claws and there were several huge cracks. "It has 4 legs and a long tail." Tang Jing frowned. A light flashed in his mind as he thought of the skeleton. Wasn't it very similar to this? There was also that extraterrestrial creature in the crystal. Could it be that there was a fish that escaped the net in the deep sea? Was that monster the mysterious extraterrestrial creature? Thinking of this, Tang Jing was surprised and excited. If it was really an extraterrestrial creature, then he must capture it alive. He had always wanted to study extraterrestrial creatures, but that guy was in the crystal and he had no way to do so. Now that there was a ready-made one, he certainly couldn't miss it. He didn't know how strong the extraterrestrial creature was, so he looked at the others and wanted to ask Lu Qingmei to take the others away. But then he thought of how many extraterrestrial creatures there were. He didn't know it all. If they met on the way out, wouldn't they be walking into a trap? Thinking of this, he quickly said, "Everyone gather together. Don't be afraid. I'll protect your safety." Just as his voice fell, he heard a person scream and was dragged into the darkness with a whoosh. Immediately, the others were scared to the point of rolling and crawling, rushing to Tang Jing's side. "Protect them. I'll go save them." Tang Jing shouted loudly and also rushed into the darkness. The true fire in his hands illuminated the darkness, and he saw that person being lifted high up in the air. With a leap, he rushed towards that person. Whoosh! A strong wind swept towards Tang Jing's head. He quickly raised his sword and ding-dang made a sound. Sparks flew in all directions as a huge vibration force came from his palm. He finally saw clearly that it was a tail. This tail was actually able to contend with the battle soul sword without any damage. It was really extraordinary. He also finally saw the other's appearance. It was exactly the same as the extraterrestrial creature in the crystal. It was just that its body was slightly smaller. However, its pair of eyes seemed to be magical, as if it could suck in a person's soul. For eyes met. The monster also saw Tang Jing clearly. Its eyes flashed with an ominous glint. It opened its mouth and roared at Tang Jing, letting out a sharp cry. Tang Jing coldly snorted. He was not intimidated by the other's eyes. The battle soul sword in his hand trembled and the sword light rushed towards the claws. The extraterrestrial creature had already experienced the power of the battle soul sword and quickly let go of its claws. The man escaped and screamed as he fell from a high place. Tang Jing flew up and caught the man. He then threw him into the distance and steadily landed in the crowd. The extraterrestrial creature did not run away. Instead, it stared at Tang Jing. For eyes met, neither was afraid of the other. The extraterrestrial creature bared its teeth and roared at Tang Jing. Tang Jing coldly smiled and hooked his fingers, saying, "Come. Let me see how much weight you have. Don't disappoint me. If you are too weak, then the sky beyond heaven will disappoint me." Brr. The extraterrestrial creature roared. The sound waves pushed the seawater forward. Tang Jing casually slapped out and the surging power of his palm counteracted the power of the seawater. A black shadow flashed. The extraterrestrial creature had already followed the seawater and rushed over. Tang Jing also rushed up. One man and one beast immediately fought, setting off stormy waves. Boom boom boom. Chapter 1006. Looking at the jewels scattered all over the ground, everyone's eyes lit up, but no one dared to come forward to snatch the jewels. Wang Guanchuan worriedly looked at the fierce battle and asked, "This monster is too fierce, is Tang Jing its opponent?" Lu Qingmei proudly raised her head and said without hesitation, "How can this monster hurt him? He is the most powerful." Obviously, in her heart, the person she loves is omnipotent and invincible. Wang Guanchuan bitterly smiled, his heart almost jumped to his throat. If Tang Jing failed, then they would not be able to escape from this monster's evil hands. After a fierce battle, Tang Jing gradually came to a conclusion that this foreign creature was indeed powerful. Whether it was its claws or that barbed tail, they were all like weapons. It was actually able to contend against the War Soul Sword, which showed its power. This guy is probably a cub, much smaller than the one in the crystal stone, so its strength is naturally greatly reduced. I don't know how powerful it will be when it grows up. Tang Jing understood and was full of confidence. He was not prepared to continue to delay, and was ready to cut the Gordian knot and capture it alive. Suddenly a voice sounded in his mind. "Master Dash." This voice was very choppy, like a child who had just learned to speak. Tang Jing was startled, and his movements subconsciously slowed down by half a beat. The alien took this opportunity to launch an attack, and its tail brought a wave of water to stab at him. The tip of its tail shone with a cold light, making people feel intimidated. "I am Xiao Bai." The voice sounded again. Tang Jing suddenly realized and was overjoyed. Xiao Bai, it could actually speak. His divine sense immediately extended into the Sumeru world, and as expected, he saw that little white had awoken. It was staring at him with its big round eyes. Its appearance didn't change much, except that there was a clump of fiery red hair on its forehead, which was very different from the rest of its snow-white hair. It was very conspicuous like a burning flame. Xiao Bai, you are finally awake. Master, let me deal with it. Xiao Bai took the initiative to volunteer. Tang Jing's head shook. It could still sense the outside world in the Sumeru world. This kind of thing has never happened before. It seems that after this evolution, its power has greatly increased. With a thought, Xiao Bai appeared beside him. The tail of the creature just happened to stab over, and Xiao Bai slowly stretched out its claws, like a cynical person, as if it did not put the sharp tail in its eyes at all. The others did not understand how a puppy-like animal appeared out of thin air. Looking at its small body, there was no way to compare with the monster. It would definitely be directly pierced by the tail. However, in the next second they were all stunned. That furry little paw actually grabbed the sharp tail, and the tail's attack came to an abrupt halt. The scene froze and they looked at the scene in disbelief. This scene was so unreal, like a dream. Bad guy, how dare you hurt my master? Xiao Bai spoke the human language, and with a wave of its little claws, the creature involuntarily flew up like a kite, spinning in mid-air. Looking at this scene, the others trembled in their hearts. Wasn't the monster very powerful? How could it become so weak that it could not even withstand a gust of wind? Whoosh! Xiao Bai let go of its claws, and the creature flew like a cannonball into a distant wall. With a bang, the wall collapsed and a large hole was created. Xiao Bai proudly clapped its little claws, and jumped onto Tang Zheng's shoulder, holding his head, and said proudly, Master, am I very powerful? For a moment, Tang Zheng was not used to Xiao Bai speaking the human language. After a moment of surprise, he nodded bitterly, You are indeed very powerful. Of course. Xiao Bai proudly raised its head without any sense of modesty. The others heard the conversation between the two sides, and their expressions were very strange. It was clearly an animal, so how could it speak? Was it a spirit? Whoosh! Suddenly, a huge black shadow rushed over. Xiao Bai did not look back and stepped back, landing on the body of the creature. With a cry, the creature seemed to have suffered a great deal of damage, and with a roar, it flew out again like a cannonball. This time it was completely silent and no one knew whether it was dead or alive. Let's go and take a look. Tang Zheng was afraid that Xiao Bai did not know the severity of the situation and directly killed the creature, so he hurriedly chased after it, only to find that there was a mess under his feet, and there was no sign of the creature. It was not afraid of Tang Zheng, but in the end, it was frightened by Xiao Bai's casual attack and fled. We can't let it escape. I must find out what is going on, Tang Zheng said in a low voice. Xiao Bai imitated his normal tone and snorted, How can we let it escape? I will go catch it. After saying this, it jumped off Tang Zheng's shoulder and disappeared into the darkness in the blink of an eye. The rest of the people gathered together timidly and asked nervously, Young Master Tang, can that monster escape? Tang Zheng smiled faintly, with Xiao Bai chasing after it, it won't be able to escape even if it has wings. What kind of animal is that Xiao Bai? How can it speak? Someone asked, trembling with fear. Tang Zheng smiled but did not say anything. Boom boom boom. Suddenly, the sound of an intense battle came from an unknown direction, causing the cabin to tremble. The sand on the ground also quickly rose up, causing the seawater to become turbid. Tang Zheng's expression changed slightly. We must quickly leave this place, the battleship is about to collapse. The others were shocked. If the battleship collapsed, they would be buried alive, so they all rushed towards the exit. Tang Zheng had just taken a step out when he retracted his foot, turning his head to look at the jewels on the ground. Since they were already here, it would be a sin to let the jewels be covered in dust. Thus he turned around and arrived in front of the jewels. Other than the jewels on the ground, there were several boxes that were still intact. The others had already escaped, so they did not see him stay behind. Thus he quickly activated Sumeru World. With a flash of light, the jewels on the ground were all sucked into Sumeru World. The battleship shook more and more violently, so Tang Zheng quickly chased after them. Boom. When everyone escaped from the battleship, a loud sound came from the battleship, followed by creaking sounds. The battleship was falling apart at a speed visible to the naked eye, disintegrating and collapsing. Finally, with a loud rumble, it turned into a pile of ruins, splashing up sand and sand, causing the seawater to become turbid. Everyone ran far away, frightened. Many people's hearts sank, guessing that the monster and Xiao Bai had perished together. Everyone subconsciously looked at Tang Zheng, but found that he was calm as if nothing had happened, as if he was not the least bit worried about Xiao Bai's safety. Of course, he was not worried because he was very sure that this little bit of danger would not be able to stop Xiaobai. Sure enough, a ball of light lit up from the turbid seawater, like a ball of flame, quickly escaping from the turbid seawater, gradually approaching. Flame. Someone exclaimed. That ball of light turned out to be a ball of fiery red flame, swaying with the waves. Everyone's reaction was very interesting, cowering and hiding behind Tang Zheng, afraid that some danger would appear again. Tang Zheng was calm and composed, indifferently looking at the ball of flame that was getting closer and closer, because he had already guessed what was going on. Xiaobai. He softly shouted. In this deep sea, he seemed to have turned into a fish, able to breathe freely, and naturally could speak without hindrance. The others did not have this ability. If not for wearing a diving mask, perhaps they would not have been able to say a word. Master. Xiaobai cheered, jumping out of the turbid sea water. The fiery red hair on its forehead turned into a ball of flame, swaying gently, and in its small claws was a captive, an extraterrestrial creature. It seemed to have completely lost the ability to resist, like a dead dog, being dragged by Xiaobai, dragging a long trace on the ground. Its pair of eyes dimmed a lot, but as if there was still magic, it was easy to be trapped in them. This bad guy still wanted to escape, but in the end I still managed to drag him out. It's just that he kept on resisting, and in the end I taught him a lesson. Now he's obedient. Little White pointed at the defeated general and said proudly. The extraterrestrial creature unwillingly stared at Xiaobai, but there was nothing it could do. Humph, are you still not convinced? Xiaobai pouted, and its small claws seemed to be gently patting, but when it fell on the extraterrestrial creature, it immediately let out a sharp scream. The unwillingness and anger in its eyes immediately disappeared. That's right, he is my master. If you dare to disrespect him, Humph, I will break your bones and use them to make soup. Xiaobai said fiercely. The extraterrestrial creature was so scared that its whole body trembled, and it shrank into a ball, no longer looking as arrogant as before. Tang Zheng had seen Xiaobai's deeds of taming the thundercloud beast, and knew that its small body contained a lot of power, so he was not surprised. The others looked as if they had seen a ghost, and their worldview was completely turned upside down. Master, what are you going to do with it? Xiaobai asked. Tang Zheng thought for a while, staring straight at the extraterrestrial creature. It glared at him fiercely, but when it saw Xiaobai's eyes, it quickly lowered its head in fear. Looking at its funny appearance, Tang Zheng could not help laughing. It seems to be very human, but I don't know if it can speak. Roar. The extraterrestrial creature growled twice. It's useless to just roar. If you can't speak, how can I know what happened in the past? Tang Zheng said in distress. The extraterrestrial creature turned its head directly, ignoring Tang Zheng. Slap. Suddenly, a claw slapped its head and it cried out in pain. Xiaobai raised its small claws and threatened, I told you, don't be disrespectful to my master, or I will deal with you cruelly and roast you. As it spoke, the flame on its forehead jumped more violently. The extraterrestrial creature was so scared that it shook its head quickly. Obviously, from its black and smoky appearance, it must have suffered a great loss from the flame, and was very afraid. Chapter 1007. Xiaobai was domineering and mighty, making the extraterrestrial obedient. The others looked at each other in dismay when they saw the strong contrast between the two. What was going on? The world was changing too fast and they couldn't keep up. Since they couldn't get any answers and the battleship had been destroyed, it was better to go back first. So Tang Zheng told Xiaobai, look after it. If it dares to do anything, punish it severely. Don't worry, if it dares to move, I'll roast it. Xiaobai grinned at the extraterrestrial as if he was sneering. The extraterrestrial trembled and curled into a ball, looking at Tang Zheng with eyes full of resentment. Let's go, there's no need to investigate here. Let's go back first, Tang Zheng said. The others looked at each other. This time they came for the jewels, but now that the battleship had collapsed, the jewels were buried below. In addition, this place was too strange. If another monster appeared, there would be no place to cry. So, no one had any objections and they all went into the submarine. Wang Guanchuan once again drove the submarine, suppressing the stormy waves in his heart. He carefully controlled the submarine and floated up little by little. However, many people, intentionally or unintentionally, secretly looked at Xiaobai and the extraterrestrial at the back of the submarine. When their eyes met the extraterrestrial's eyes, their hearts trembled, and they quickly looked away. Junior brother, this monster is wild and difficult to tame. Will there be any problems if you bring it back? Wang Guanchuan asked worriedly. Tang Jing smiled faintly and said, Brother Wang, didn't you always want to know what kind of animal the skeleton was? Now that it's standing in front of you, can't you recognize it? Wang Guanchuan was startled and subconsciously turned his head to look, just in time to see the monster looking at him. He was frightened and hurriedly withdrew his gaze and asked suspiciously, It's somewhat similar, but are you sure? Of course, this guy and that skeleton are of the same kind, so there must be a connection between them. It's just that it's not clear yet, but I believe that in time, there will definitely be a way to find out. Tang Jing vowed. Wang Guanchuan was surprised and asked, Where exactly did this monster come from? Tang Jing smiled and said, The answer to all the mysteries will be revealed. Don't be impatient. Seeing that he couldn't get any answers, Wang Guanchuan temporarily dismissed the idea of getting to the bottom of things and focused on driving the submarine. Moments later, the submarine finally surfaced from the water. Du Qifeng, Xiao Xiaoling, and the others hurriedly greeted them. When they saw that this group of people was slightly embarrassed and empty-handed, they asked, What happened below? We have detected intense activity and loud noises coming from the bottom of the sea. It's a long story. Let's go up first. Wang Guanchuan sighed faintly, and the others boarded the yacht one after another. When it was Tang Zheng's turn, Du Qifeng and others suddenly found that there were two more animals around him, one small and one big. Xiaobai was loved by everyone and the other was born very fierce. Many people screamed and subconsciously retreated. Even Du Qifeng took a step back to stabilize his body. He asked in shock, This is... Tang Jing smiled and comforted him, Mr. Du, don't panic. This is the phantom you met at the bottom of the sea before, and now we have caught it alive. Everyone's eyes fell on the extraterrestrial creature. Aware of everyone's gaze, it immediately let out an angry roar, scaring the others to scream and retreat again and again. Even Xiao Xiaoling subconsciously stood in front of Du Qifeng to protect him. I told you not to roar, you didn't listen. Xiao Bai patted the top of the extraterrestrial creature's head with a claw. It shrank its neck and looked at Xiao Bai in fear. It made a whining sound as if it was protesting. Xiao Bai snorted coldly and patted it twice. It completely lowered its head and no longer had any temper. Du Qifeng and others stared at this scene blankly. They couldn't figure out the situation at all. Wasn't this monster supposed to be very powerful? How could it be bullied by such a little thing, and it didn't even fight back when scolded? Du Qifeng asked with trepidation, Young Master Tang, what kind of monster is this? Tang Jing smiled and didn't answer. He just said, Don't be afraid. It won't hurt anyone now. Everyone was skeptical, but when they saw the monster's obedient appearance, their hanging hearts slowly returned to their chests. Suddenly their eyes focused on Xiao Bai. They were shocked and their faces became even paler, because just now they heard it speak human language and it could beat and scold the monster at will. Wasn't this more powerful? It's a monster. Some people screamed as if they woke up from a dream and hurriedly retreated. Voila! The crowd retreated like a receding tide, looking at Little White in fear and unease. Xiao Bai glanced at the crowd contemptuously, curled his lips and said, You're really ignorant. You're so easily scared. After that he walked a few steps forward. Many people were scared and hid in the corner, tears almost coming out of their eyes. Only a few people who went into the sea together were calm. There was a bitter smile on their faces. They were scared and numb. Xiao Bai, don't mess around. Tang Jing hurriedly stopped him. Otherwise, if this little guy spat out a mouthful of fire, it would scare them even more. Xiao Bai pouted and said discontentedly, They're too stupid and timid. After that, with a kick of his hind legs, he rode on the back of the extraterrestrial creature. It wanted to break free from Xiao Bai, but its whole body stiffened and it stopped moving. Obviously, it was scared of Xiao Bai. Little White patted its head and said, Let's go. Let's walk around the ship and see if there's anything fun. The extraterrestrial creature's eyes were full of grievances and unwillingness, but there was nothing it could do. It could only obediently walk with its four limbs. Xiao Bai rode on its back majestically. He glanced at the crowd like a king patrolling his territory, leisurely. Some people saw the monster walking towards them and were scared out of their wits. They collapsed on the ground like a pile of mud, unable to move. But the monster didn't even look at them. It looked straight ahead and walked past them into the cabin. Instantly, the people in the cabin were thrown off their feet, and it was a complete mess. Sharp cries of alarm sounded out, and one by one, they rushed out as if they were fleeing, screaming incessantly. Tang Jing didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Xiao Bai's style of doing things was unique and incredible. He could only wipe its ass and keep comforting it. Don't panic, don't be afraid. They won't hurt you. You can treat them as ordinary animals. Everyone was trembling with fear. Although they lamented in their hearts how could they be ordinary animals, they still had to hold back their palpitations and cheer themselves up to not completely fall down. After such a farce, most people returned to the cabin to rest with lingering fear. Tang Jing, Lu Qingmei, Du Qifeng, Wang Guanquan and Xiao Xiaoling stayed, facing the sea breeze. Du Qifeng took the lead to break the silence and asked what happened at the bottom of the sea. Wang Guanquan recounted the experience at the bottom of the sea in detail. Wang Guanquan and Xiao Xiaoling listened with surging emotions. Especially when the monster appeared, their hearts couldn't help but lift. Xiao Xiaoling was an assassin. He was the most sensitive to danger. Just now he felt this innate danger from the monster and knew that it was not a good thing. As for Little White, he didn't feel too strongly about it. It was as if it really was a little thing that didn't pose any threat. However, he knew that this was all an illusion. Xiao Bai was the most powerful. Otherwise, the monster, who was difficult to train, would not bow to him. He subconsciously looked at Tang Zheng, saying that none of the people or animals around him were simple. If he really underestimated him, he would be a complete fool. Du Qifeng asked curiously, how did Xiao Bai subdue the monster? Wang Guanquan glanced at Tang Zheng and said, we didn't see it with our own eyes. We just saw the result. Du Qifeng felt a little regretful. He turned his eyes and asked, those treasures are buried in the ruins of the battleship. Is there any way to dig them out? Unless we use large machinery, it's impossible. But it's in the deep sea. There's no such machinery at all, so... Wang Guanquan didn't continue, but the meaning was very obvious. Those treasures would be buried in the sea forever. Du Qifeng sighed. He was very disappointed. He was a businessman. Exploring the sea floor was to find treasures. Now that the cooked duck flew away, how could he not be disappointed? Tang Zheng's face didn't change. Those treasures were ownerless. Those who could get them would get them. Taking them away himself was not without morality. Moreover, if he hadn't followed them this time, he was afraid that everyone who had just gone to the sea would have been doomed. It could be regarded as saving their lives. Young Master Tang, what are the origins of that monster and your pet? Why are they so extraordinary? Du Qifeng put down the matter of the treasures. He was filled with endless interest towards those two fellows. Tang Jing chuckled and said, Director Du is very knowledgeable. You should have heard of monster beasts before, right? Du Qifeng was suddenly startled. He was not unfamiliar with this term. He had heard rumors about monster beasts from many sources and knew how powerful they were. Seeing Tang Zheng directly state the identities of those two fellows, all of his curiosity disappeared. Monster beasts were not something he could provoke. He also couldn't have any ideas about them. Otherwise it would be too late for regrets if he ended up dead. He smiled bitterly at Tang Zheng and said, I see. I understand. What does young Master Tang plan to do next? Let's go back. Tang Zheng said. Okay, no problem. I will arrange it now. When we go back, I would like to invite young Master Tang to do me the honor. It was fate that brought us together. This time, I am indebted to young Master Tang for saving so many of my employees. I should thank young Master Tang for giving me this opportunity. Du Qifeng said sincerely. Tang Zheng hesitated for a moment but still agreed. He had gained a lot this time. It was also thanks to Du Qifeng. He obviously had something to ask of him. Since that was the case, there was no harm in listening to his request. Night fell. The yacht sailed across the sea. The dark clouds in the sky were getting darker and closer. It was as if a storm was coming. Suddenly, a black shadow flew over from the horizon and landed on the deck without a sound. Chapter 1008. This black figure was shrouded in a black robe. He held a folding fan in his hand and looked like a feather fan. However, there was an evil aura around him that blended in with the darkness. He didn't seem to make any movements. He just floated towards the yacht like a ghost. Who's there? A crew member suddenly noticed him. Just as he was about to shout, he was lightly tapped by the folding fan in his hand. Poof! A bloody hole appeared between his eyebrows. He fell to the ground and died. Although this sound was faint, it was enough to attract some people's attention. Xiao Bai and the extraterrestrial creature suddenly opened their eyes. Xiao Bai was still riding on the extraterrestrial creature's back as if it was really his mount. Two pairs of black eyes flashed as they looked into the darkness. Tang Zheng also suddenly opened his eyes and sat up from the bed. Lu Qingmei rubbed her eyes and asked lazily, "What's wrong?" Tang Jing raised a finger and signaled for her to be quiet. He said in a low voice, "Someone's on the yacht. You stay here. I'll go take a look." Lu Qingmei's whole body shook. Her sleepiness was completely gone. She asked, "Really?" Seeing Tang Jing nod, she quickly put on her clothes and covered her exquisite figure. She watched as Tang Jing walked out of the cabin. As soon as Tang Jing looked up, he saw a person walking towards him from the end of the corridor. At his feet was a corpse. Xiao Bai rode on the extraterrestrial creature and stood in between them. He glared at the man in black. The man in black's eyes fell on the extraterrestrial creature. His eyes lit up and he praised, "Red Lunar Beast, I finally found you. I didn't think that the Red Lunar Beast would still exist in this world." Ah. Red Lunar Beast. Tang Jing's heart skipped a beat. This person actually knew the origin of the extraterrestrial creature. Could it be that he was also from the outer sky? He immediately sized up this person carefully. Suddenly, his eyes fell on the folding fan, and his heart skipped a beat. He cried out in surprise, "It's you, Demon Venerable?" He had a deep impression of this fan. When the demons returned, the Dragon Group cooperated with the National Security Bureau to snipe the demons in the sea. A world-shaking war broke out. The leader of the demons was this demon sovereign. Many soldiers died at his hands. In the end, he was the only one who survived. In order to claim credit, Xing Feng deliberately reported to his superiors that he had wiped out all the demons, but in reality, there was still a fish that escaped the net. The demon lord turned around and looked at Tang Jing in shock. He snorted coldly, "Enemies are bound to meet on a narrow road. You managed to escape that time, but this time you can forget about surviving. Let's see who else can save you." The demon lord was very confident. Back then, Tang Jing had left a deep impression on him. This was because Tang Jing was able to break through his illusionary god-demon realm, which shocked him. Tang Jing's lips curled up into a mocking smile. He was no longer the same person as before. Now he was a rank 4 Yuanying realm cultivator. His strength had improved tremendously. Moreover, he had Xiao Bai to help him. He did not believe that he could not defeat a demon lord. However, the demon lord definitely did not come here in the middle of the night to relax. He must have done it on purpose. What was his purpose? That was the key. Furthermore, he recognized the Red Lunar Beast. This was like a cloud that had cleared up. Tang Jing was very interested. He wanted to get some information from him. "You are so confident that you can kill me. But who was the one who ran away in a panic? And who was the one who did not show up for such a long time? I don't know where you went to lick your wounds. Now you finally have the guts to show up? Aren't you afraid of death?" Tang Jing mocked. The demon lord's expression changed. His eyes shone with coldness and killing intent. He roared angrily, "Nonsense! Why would I run away? I am the demon lord. How can I allow you to talk nonsense? I will let you know the consequences of talking nonsense later. Today is a pleasant surprise. I did not come here for you, but I did not expect to meet you here. Now I can take care of you." "Then who are you here for?" "You are not qualified enough for me to come here for you. I am here for the Red Lunar Beast. You are so lucky to have found the Red Lunar Beast." Hee hee. The demon lord's eyes shone as he spoke. It was as if he had seen a rare treasure. "What is the Red Lunar Beast?" Tang Jing asked. The demon lord was slightly shocked. He then laughed out loud, "Ha, so you don't know how precious the Red Lunar Beast is? How ignorant. Actually, it is true. The Red Lunar Beast comes from the sky beyond heaven. How could you know how precious it is?" "But I don't see how precious it is." Tang Jing refuted on purpose. The demon lord snorted and said with disdain, "That is because you are ignorant. How can you tell how precious the Red Lunar Beast is? As long as I consume the Red Lunar Beast's inner core, my power will increase by leaps and bounds. The Red Lunar Beast's inner core is a holy item for cultivation. It is a treasure that many people dream of having." Tang Jing was shocked. He could not help but stare at the Red Lunar Beast. However, he saw that it was very confused. Obviously, it did not know about this either. He was still skeptical. He purposely said with disdain, "It is just a beast's inner core. It is not like I have never seen one before. It is not as magical as you say. If your way of lying is too low." "Who said that I am lying?" The demon lord was furious. He stared at Tang Jing fiercely and said, "Everyone in the sky beyond heaven knows how precious the Red Lunar Beast is. The Red Lunar Beast is born by absorbing the essence of moonlight. From the moment it is born, it is extremely talented. It can cultivate faster with half the effort. Every time it absorbs the essence of moonlight to cultivate, the moon will turn red like blood. This is the origin of the red lunar beast's name. Tang Jing was shocked. He looked at the red lunar beast in disbelief. It can absorb the essence of moonlight to cultivate. That is too powerful. Normal people could only absorb the spiritual qi in the air to cultivate. They did not even dare to think about absorbing the essence of the sun and moon. There was no way they could absorb the essence of the sun and moon. However, Tang Jing knew that the essence of the sun and moon was one of the most precious sources of cultivation. He did not expect the red lunar beast to be so talented. No wonder the demon lord was here for the red lunar beast. Coincidentally, I saw a picture of the red lunar beast skeleton on the internet. I asked around and finally found this place. I never thought that I would actually see it. Haha, the heavens are helping me. Just wait until I consume the red lunar beast's inner core. No one in this world will be able to defeat me. The demon lord's eyes shone with madness. Tang Jing rolled his eyes speechlessly. This demon lord was so trendy. He even knew how to surf the internet. Without a doubt, this picture of the red lunar beast skeleton was accidentally posted on the internet by one of the exploration team members. Who would have thought that the demon lord would find out about it? That's why he followed me all the way here. Of course, the demon lord came here hoping that he could get lucky. He did not expect to see the real body of the red lunar beast. How could he not be happy? Tang Jing thought through the details and rejoiced that he was one step ahead of the rest and was the first to act. Otherwise, the scarlet lunar beast would not be able to escape from the demon lord. If the scarlet lunar beast was really as powerful as he said, then the demon lord's power would increase by leaps and bounds, and it would be difficult to suppress him. Oh, red lunar beast, once I consume your inner core, not only will I be able to absorb the powerful energy in the inner core, but more importantly, I will also possess your talent. When that time comes, hee. The demon lord raised his head and looked at the night sky. In the boundless night sky, the bright moon was very eye-catching. When that time comes, I will be able to absorb the essence of the moonlight directly. My power will improve tremendously, and I will become the king of this world. Even in the outer heaven, I will be able to occupy a spot. No one will be able to threaten me anymore. Hearing this, Tang Jing's heartstrings trembled as he realized that the situation was far more complicated than he had imagined. He hurriedly asked, "Are you saying that after consuming the Crimson Moon Beast's Niden, I can also possess its innate talent?" Of course. The demon lord raised his head proudly and answered with disdain. Tang Jing was enlightened. No wonder you are trying so hard to get the red lunar beast. This talent was much more important than the energy in the red lunar beast's inner core. Once he had this talent, he would be able to continuously absorb the essence of the moonlight from the moon. The essence of the moonlight was much more powerful than spiritual qi. His cultivation would be much faster. Tang Jing looked at the red lunar beast with a complicated expression. It seemed to have noticed that Tang Jing was looking at it, so it turned around. When their eyes met, the red lunar beast shrunk its neck. It knew that the situation was not good. "Thank you for telling me all this. If it weren't for you, I am afraid that I wouldn't know about all this. Telling me all this before you die is the last bit of value you have," Tang Jing said calmly. The demon lord was stunned for a moment. Then it laughed out loud as if it had heard the funniest joke in the world. It snorted, "Are you really scared out of your wits? How could you say something so stupid? About the red lunar beast, it is useless for you to know. Because you will not be able to see me absorb its inner core." After he finished speaking, he was ready to take action. However, he heard a few cracking sounds. Several cabin doors opened and many people came out. They were finally awakened by this movement. They came out to see what was going on. When they saw that there was an evil black-clothed man on the yacht, they were scared and retreated. "Everyone, don't panic. I am here. He can't hurt you." Tang Jing comforted them. "Who is he?" Du Qifeng asked. "A fish that escaped the net. I let him escape. Today he won't be able to escape." Tang Jing took a step forward and stood in front of the demon lord and the others. Xiao Xiaoling also hurriedly stood in front of everyone. He looked at the demon lord with vigilance. He had already judged that this person was extraordinary, so he raised his spirit. The demon lord coldly glanced at everyone and said, "Hee, there are so many people here. Wait until I get rid of you, then I'll get rid of them. Then no one will know what happened tonight. It's a pity that you won't be able to see me soar into the sky and amaze the world. Don't dream about your spring and autumn." Tang Jing stepped forward and took the initiative to attack. The War Soul sword slashed the air and directly attacked the demon lord. The demon lord snorted coldly and opened his folding fan. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A cold light flew out of the folding fan and shot straight at Tang Zheng. Ding dang. After a crisp sound, the War Soul sword resisted the attack of the cold light. Only a few puffs were heard. The cabin door and walls had many small holes, which were completely destroyed by the cold light. Chapter 1009. The battle between the two was very fierce. This narrow space was not enough for them to display their true fighting strength, so their figures flashed, and the two sides tacitly came to the deck. The sword chi and the cold light from the folding fan fell into the water, splashing a column of water into the sky. The demon lord's eyes were awe-inspiring as he asked, "Your cultivation has increased so much. How did you do it?" Compared to the beginning, Tang Zheng's strength had indeed increased a lot. The demon lord couldn't help but be surprised, but he still underestimated Tang Zheng's strength. Tang Zheng sneered and didn't answer, but the war soul in his hand danced more and more airtight. The sword light intertwined together and attacked the demon lord from all directions. The demon lord retreated slightly and shouted, "Demon Eye Soul Destruction." As soon as his voice fell, the demon lord's eyes turned as black as ink, deeper than the night sky, as if a person's soul would be sucked in at a glance. A trembling feeling arose from the depths of his soul, causing Tang Zheng to jump in fright. He hurriedly circulated his energy to defend against this strange attack. He had seen the power of this technique before, and the scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere after the explosion was still vivid in his mind. Suddenly, a crew member rushed out of the deck and happened to meet the demon lord's eyes. His soul trembled and exploded with a bang, turning into a rain of blood. The others were almost scared silly by this scene. They were dumbfounded and stared blankly at the rain of blood in the sky. Tang Zheng hurriedly shouted, go back, don't come out, don't look into his eyes." The others woke up from a dream and quickly retreated into the cabin like a receding tide. They shivered and their faces were pale, and they didn't dare to come out again. Xiao Xiaoling also felt cold all over. Only now did he understand how vulnerable his so-called strength was in front of these super experts. Suddenly, his resentment towards Tang Zheng dissipated a lot. He was looking forward to the result of the battle between the two, and who was more skilled. Lu Qingmei also came out of the house and came to the crowd. She comforted them softly, "Don't worry, Tang Zheng is here. The bad guys can't hurt us." The others looked at her deeply, and the fear and haze in their hearts dispersed a little. While the two of them were engaged in a fierce battle, Xiao Bai and the Red Lunar Beast were like spectators. They leisurely strolled to the deck to watch the battle. Xiao Bai muttered to himself, "Master's strength has really increased by a lot. This demon lord is not to be underestimated. This kind of battle is more interesting." As it spoke, it patted the Red Lunar's head and asked, "Red Lunar, I didn't know that you had such an impressive background. Absorbing the essence of the moonlight is indeed a good thing. However, the two words Red Moon are too hard to pronounce. I want to give you a new name." Whoosh! The Red Moon Beast snorted as if it was protesting against Xiao Bai's decision. Xiao Bai knocked on the Red Moon Beast's head and pretended to be angry. "You dare to protest? Do you believe that I will roast you now?" The Scarlet Lunar Beast shuddered and did not dare to protest anymore. It was as docile as a kitten. This sentence became the most effective weapon to threaten the Red Lunar Beast. "That's more like it." Xiao Bai was satisfied and started to think. As for the battle in the outside world, it did not seem to be affected by it at all. Suddenly it cheered, "Wow, I got it, this name must be very good, just a little bit worse than my name." The Red Lunar Beast's eyes were filled with fear, as if it had foreseen something bad. "Little Yu, this name sounds good, right?" Xiao Bai's eyes shone brightly as it spoke. The Red Lunar Beast's eyes were filled with despair. It was trying its best to control its thoughts of resisting, but it definitely wanted to kill itself. Xiao Bai clapped its paws excitedly. "From now on you will be called Little Yu. Remember my kindness of giving you a name, you must repay me in the future." Xiao Bai was very proud of itself as if it had done something great. The Red Lunar Beast almost burst into tears. It was filled with grief and indignation. It looked like it was taking revenge, but how could it repay him? Tang Zheng also heard their conversation and wanted to laugh in his heart. Indeed, there was always one thing to conquer another. Even though the Scarlet Lunar Beast was extraordinary, it could only be obedient in the hands of Little White. It could not even cause a ripple. What was the origin of this Xiao Bai? How could it have such a demonic power? Tang Zheng was even more curious about this question. In fact, he had already asked it yesterday, but Xiao Bai's memory was limited. It could only remember what happened after it was born. As for the origin of its own race, it did not know anything at all. Tang Zheng could not help but feel disappointed, but it also filled him with anticipation. The red lunar beast was not simple, so one could only imagine how amazing Xiao Bai's true identity was. The power of the demonic eye soul extermination was very strong. Tang Zheng felt as if his soul was about to scatter, which made his heartstrings tremble. The battle soul sword was waving faster and faster. Suddenly, a ray of light flashed through his mind. The Tai Chi Yin-Yang sword art had magically appeared. This set of sword technique was usually impossible to remember, and would only appear in this kind of life and death situation, so Tang Zheng was not surprised at all, and was able to use this set of sword technique with ease. Swoosh, swoosh. In an instant, the battle soul sword left his hand and flew towards the demon lord. The demon lord's expression changed. It seemed to have realized the power of this sword art. The folding fan in its hand opened up and expanded rapidly, completely blocking the battle soul sword. However, Pucci. With a tearing sound, the folding fan was split into two. The demon lord was stunned for a moment. When it saw the sword light coming towards it, it hurriedly dodged it. However, its eyes quickly locked onto Tang Zheng. It shifted its position and coincidentally looked into Tang Zheng's eyes. Boom. Tang Zheng felt as if his soul had been severely injured, as if it was being torn apart. A wave of pain and trembling that came from the depths of his soul arose spontaneously. He secretly cursed. This was the effect of the demon lord's demonic eye soul extinguisher. Once it locked onto him, he was afraid that his fate would not be much different from the others. However, he did not give up. He hurriedly channeled his energy. However, this attack came from the soul. For a moment he was unable to break free. Suddenly a voice sounded in his mind. He felt his entire body relax. He suddenly realized that this was his own voice. However, it was chanting the Ksitigarbha Sutra. Usually, in order to suppress the Shura, he would often need to chant the Ksitigarbha Sutra. He did not expect that this voice would suddenly appear in his mind. The ancients created a phrase, lingering for 3 days, lingering for 3 days. The voice chanting the Ksitigarbha Sutra was not as simple as lingering for 3 days. It was deeply imprinted in his soul. When his soul was attacked, the Ksitigarbha Sutra would be triggered. He suddenly realized that the members of the world of spirits and souls were originally spirits. As the Dizang of Goguryyo's most powerful technique, the Ksitigarbha Sutra was, of course, the best technique for cultivating the soul. It seemed reasonable that it could resist the demon lord's demonic eye soul extinguisher attack. Tang Zheng was overjoyed. He originally thought that the Ksitigarbha Sutra could only be used to suppress the Shura. Now, it seemed that its effect was far greater than he thought. In fact, he was not wrong. The Ksitigarbha Sutra was a high-level technique for cultivating the soul. As he chanted it every day, the Ksitigarbha Sutra was gradually imprinted in his soul. Over time, his soul became stronger and stronger. Even when facing a soul-type attack, he could handle it with ease. The demon lord was very confident. He thought that this was a sure thing. He would definitely be able to get rid of Tang Zheng. However, he suddenly noticed that the corner of Tang Zheng's mouth curled up into a smile. His heart skipped a beat as he realized that something was wrong. An ominous premonition struck him. Before he could react, he found that there were 2 palms on his chest. Bang, bang. As the 2 palms landed on his chest quickly caved in. Like a kite with a broken string, he fell into the sea, splashing water everywhere. Xiao Bai was not surprised by this scene. He mumbled, "This demon lord is also an idiot. How dare he look down on my master? Now he has suffered the consequences of his own actions." The Scarlet Moon Beast rolled its eyes, as if to say that he was not as powerful as he said. Xiao Bai's fiery golden eyes immediately noticed the look in the Scarlet Moon Beast's eyes. His eyes flashed as he asked, "You don't agree?" The Scarlet Moon Beast immediately denied, shaking its head like a rattledrum. "If you dare to disagree, I will roast you," Xiao Bai threatened. The Scarlet Moon Beast lowered its head, feeling wronged. Xiao Bai suddenly pointed at the sea and shouted, "Master, the demon lord is not dead yet. Look at the sea." There was a mark on the sea and it was moving quickly towards the distance. Under the moonlight it was very obvious. "You want to run away? Didn't you want to kill me?" Tang Zheng sneered. He flew on his sword and chased after it. "Let's go and have a look." Little White patted the back of the Scarlet Lunar Beast. The Scarlet Lunar Beast roared and rushed out of the ship, landing on the surface of the water. However, it did not sink. Instead, it stepped on the water and quickly chased after Little White. The others rushed out in fear, looking at the backs of the few from afar. The earth-shattering battle just now had completely changed their worldview, letting them experience another world outside of this one. They looked at each other, unable to calm down. Lu Qingmei's eyes lit up. She clenched her fists and locked on to the handsome figure in the air. Her beautiful eyes were filled with splendor. The two rushed towards the horizon, one after the other. The dark clouds in the sky moved to the top of their heads, and a storm was coming. Crack! A bolt of lightning tore through the dark clouds and thunder rumbled. Heavy rain poured down, splashing onto the ground. Violent winds blew, setting off stormy waves. The originally calm sea surface was suddenly filled with wind and rain, turning into a scene of doomsday. Tang Zheng's pupils shrank. He drew his bow and said, "Do you want to hide under the water for the rest of your life? Come out." Swoosh. The shooting sun arrow left the bow and shot into the sea. Boom. A huge sound was heard and huge waves appeared. A human figure broke out of the water and rushed into the sky, bringing with him a stream of blood. His body was covered in blood. Obviously he had been injured by the shooting sun arrow. He floated in the air, staring at Tang Zheng from afar. He asked in disbelief, "How can you be so powerful?" Tang Zheng laughed, "There is no need to tell you. Tell me about the sky beyond sky and I will let you die a quick death." Wishful thinking. The demon lord roared and a black fog appeared on his body. In an instant he merged with the darkness. It was very strange. A little bastard from Kingsaman wants to force me, the demon lord, to commit a crime? Impossible. Chapter 10:10. In the demon honorable's mind, Tang Zheng had once performed the heavenly fairy sword technique. Therefore he had always considered Tang Zheng as someone from Kingsaman. As for Kingsaman, he did not take them seriously. This was because this sect was considered strong in the past. However, ever since they were banished to the outer sky, they had gradually declined. Now they were reduced to a third-rate sect. For a powerful sect like the demon race, they naturally did not take such a third-rate sect seriously. How ignorant. You still think that I'm from Kingsaman? Tang Zheng snorted in disdain. The shooting sun arrow was placed on the heaven-shocking bow, and in that moment the arrowhead flickered with light, like a ray of starlight shining brightly in the night sky. Break! Tang Zheng roared. The shooting sun arrow pierced through the sky. The black fog behind the demon honorable surged and turned into a wall, blocking the shooting sun arrow's path. Boom! The shooting sun arrow hit the black fog. The black fog shattered and the shooting sun arrow fell into the sea. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Another 3 arrows were shot consecutively. They formed the shape of a triangle and shot towards the demon honorable in an orderly manner. The demon honorable was shocked and screamed. However, he slapped his own chest and spat out a mouthful of blood. This scene looked like self-mutilation. However, Tang Zheng did not think so. The demon honorable was forced into a corner and was about to give his all. Thus, he hurriedly made preparations for everything. As expected, the blood that he spat out floated in mid-air. The demon honorable's finger was stained with the blood. He quickly dropped it in mid-air. A pungent smell of blood rushed into the sky. Due to the storm, the smell of blood did not weaken. Instead, it became stronger. The demon honorable had a ferocious expression on his face. He shouted fiercely, "Soul stealing in the blood sea." As soon as he finished speaking, the sky turned red. Even the rain that fell from the dark clouds turned red like fresh blood. The rainwater fell into the sea and bubbled as if it was boiling. In an instant, the area below turned into a sea of blood. Fish floated on the surface of the sea with their bellies up, losing their lives. This area seemed to have turned into a sea of death, causing people to be intimidated. Bai and the red lunar beast were floating in the sea, but they were not affected. Bai was holding 2 shooting sun arrows in its claws. It had picked them up when they fell into the sea. Raising his head to look at the scene, Bai curled his lips. This demon lord is really not easy to deal with. You, if master is not strong enough later, you can't be lazy. You have to help master, do you hear me? This time, the red lunar beast agreed without hesitation. Bai happily praised, "Very good. Keep it up. Keep it up." 3 shooting sun arrows arrived in front of the demon venerable. The rain that fell from the sky suddenly stopped and gradually gathered in front of the demon lord. The seawater below also soared into the sky. The 2 blood-like streams of water merged and quickly intertwined into a giant hand, grabbing the 3 shooting sun arrows. Boom, boom. After 3 explosions, the shooting sun arrows stopped and fell into the sea. Bai leaped up and snatched the shooting sun arrows back. As for the giant blood-red hand, it also fell apart. However, before Tang Zheng could be happy, the blood-red hand quickly gathered and protected the demon lord, blocking all possible attacks. Tang Zheng had a strange look in his eyes. This was a move that the demon lord had not used last time. Last time he had mainly used the illusory god-devil realm and the demonic eye-soul extermination. Now that these two moves were useless against Tang Zheng, the demon lord had no choice but to change his attack pattern. Obviously this move was not simple. Tang Zheng did not dare to be careless. What he didn't know was that the demon sovereign had to pay a huge price to use this move. The demon sovereign had to sacrifice his own life to use this move. Therefore, under normal circumstances he would never use such a risky move. But now he had no choice but to do so. Otherwise, it would be even more difficult for him to escape. Now he still had a chance to live. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. Even the lightning seemed to have been dyed red. Everything was strange. This time Tang Zheng did not hold back. He shot out the remaining 4 shooting sun arrows. The 4 arrows were shot together with unparalleled power. Kill? The demon lord roared. His body was covered in a bloody light and could not be seen clearly. The pair of blood-red hands grew bigger and bigger. In the end, they almost occupied half of the sky and fell from the sky. Whoosh! The blood-red hand grabbed one of the shooting sun arrows and threw it down disdainfully. Following the same pattern, the remaining 3 shooting sun arrows were blocked one by one. A red light flashed and the blood-red hand exploded into pieces. Lines of blood also appeared on the demon lord's body. His body seemed to be dismembered. The blood merged with the blood around his body and fluctuated violently. Immediately, a blood-red hand appeared and grabbed at Tang Zheng. An invisible force seemed to have grabbed Tang Zheng's soul. Tang Zheng felt his body tighten. It was as if his soul was about to leave his body. He hurriedly chanted the Ksitigarbha Sutra. His soul immediately calmed down and that feeling disappeared. The demon lord waited for a long time and found that the blood-red hand was empty. It did not snatch away Tang Zheng's soul. This was too inconceivable. This was because even an early soul formation stage cultivator would find it extremely difficult to dodge this attack. They would not be able to dodge it as easily as Tang Zheng. The demon lord was puzzled. However, he already knew that something was wrong. This was because his body had reached a limit. If he continued to force himself, his blood would dry up and he would die even if Tang Zheng did not attack him. His blood was like a flood that broke through a dam. It continued to flow out from the various wounds on his body, completely drenching his clothes and mixing with the rain and seawater outside. A hint of despair flashed through his heart, but he instantly reminded himself that he could not be so pessimistic. After all, the outcome had not been decided yet. Your soul attack is useless against me. Don't waste your energy. Tang Zheng roared. What kind of spell have you cultivated? How can you defend against my soul attack? The demon lord was unwilling to give up. He asked in a hoarse voice. Soul attacks had always been one of his strengths. Many people who were on the same level as him had died at his hands because of his soul attacks. This was also what he was most proud of. However, he did not expect that this series of attacks would be useless against Tang Zheng. The Ksitigarbha Sutra. Have you heard of it? Tang Zheng asked with a smile. The Ksitigarbha Sutra? The demon lord was confused. It was obvious that he had never heard of this spell. Bai, bring back my sun-shooting arrows. Tang Zheng had already seen Bai on the surface of the sea. Hence he could shoot arrows without fear. He did not have to worry about losing the sun-shooting arrows in the sea. Bai carried the sun-shooting arrows and soared into the sky from the scarlet lunar beast. His 4 hooves were on fire as he stepped on the flames. He was not afraid of the wind and rain at all as he arrived beside Tang Zheng. Tang Zheng took the 9 sun-shooting arrows. Suddenly his expression changed drastically. He looked at the sun-shooting arrows in his hand in shock. Although there were 9 sun-shooting arrows, when combined together, it gave him the feeling that they were one. Could it be that not only can these 9 sun-shooting arrows be separated, they can also be combined into one? With a thought, he immediately activated his innate chi and channeled it into the sun-shooting arrows. However, there was no change. There's no reaction. Could it be that I guessed wrongly? He was confused, but he immediately denied this thought. His intuition should not be wrong, but there must be something wrong somewhere. Suddenly, an idea flashed through his mind and he suddenly remembered something. All of his magic treasures had been recognized by blood, but only the heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows did not have this procedure. Because he had done this before, but it was useless. He did not understand the reason, so he did not investigate further. Now that the 9 sun-shooting arrows were gathered, he gradually had a thought. Could it be that it was because he did not gather all of the sun-shooting arrows back then? It was equivalent to this magic treasure not being a whole, so it could not be recognized by blood. Then wouldn't it be fine now? With a thought, a drop of blood essence appeared from the tip of his finger and dripped onto the shooting sun arrow. He chanted the incantation for blood recognition, and immediately the shooting sun arrow released a blood-red light. This light not only enveloped all the arrows, it also enveloped the heaven-shocking bow, and a mysterious power rippled out. "What are you doing?" the demon venerable asked in shock. Tang Zheng was excited, because his guess had finally been confirmed. In the past, he could not drip his blood to recognize his master because the sun-shooting arrows were not complete. Now that he had gathered a set of magic treasure, he could easily drip his blood to recognize his master. If not for the subtle feeling of having 9 sun-shooting arrows in his hands, he would not have thought of this. The light suddenly converged, and the sun-shooting arrows and heaven-shocking bow returned to their original state. However, in Tang Zheng's eyes, he still felt that there was something different. "Master." A voice suddenly sounded in his mind. Tang Zheng was pleasantly surprised and asked, "You are an artifact spirit?" The heaven-shocking bow and the sun-shooting arrows were sacred artifacts, so they naturally had artifact spirits, so Tang Zheng was able to guess it immediately. "Yes, master." Sure enough, the artifact spirit replied respectfully. "Can these 9 sun-shooting arrows be fused into one?" Tang Zheng asked the question in his heart. "Of course." With that said, the sun-shooting arrow flashed, and the 9 arrows merged into one, turning into one sun-shooting arrow. This sun-shooting arrow did not seem to have anything special about it, but Tang Zheng knew that its power was definitely not the same as before. He was eager to give it a try and raised his head to look at the Lord. The demon venerable's heart skipped a beat. He had a bad premonition and shouted, "What are you doing?" He had clearly seen the changes in the sun-shooting arrows, and naturally understood that this was not a good thing for him. The corner of Tang Zheng's mouth raised and he said, "Just now you tried the power of each arrow, now I'll let you have a taste of the power of the 9 arrows." Done, the sun-shooting arrow was placed on the heaven-shocking bow, the bowstring was pulled into the shape of a full moon, aimed at the demon venerable, and released his fingers. Buzz! The bowstring released a heart-shaking sound, and the rain seemed to have frozen at this moment. The sun-shooting arrow pierced through the raindrops, tore through the curtain of water formed by the interweaving rain, and shot towards the demon venerable. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.